Well, welcome everybody. This is going viral, and it's the night before Christmas. And all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Well, and so on and so forth with tradition. So we're starting this. It's the 24th of December, 2025. And we'll see who shows up and what we've got to talk about. There's a few things very interesting that have happened today or yesterday that we probably should review. Well, as soon as somebody gets here, we'll start talking. Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if the mic is on. The mic is on. We're going to see what this auto framing does. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Oh, well, this is a hell of a day to do this, but anyway.
Well, I don't know if anybody's to show up. I just here
Uh,
anyhow. I'm not going to any parties. We're not having a party. Nobody invites me to any parties, but we usually have a holiday party, but we're not having one this year
yeah,
because we might have to. We're up in the air about having to go see somebody who's a terminal on the other side. I mean, the other side of the country, your
oh, your
neighborhood.
brother? Your brother?
No, 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 no. Grace has a sister who's like
Oh,
around it's about 80 and she's got multiple illness and she's in a nursing home right now. She
oh,
went from a hospital to a nursing home.
oh, boy.
So
Okay.
whatever, you know. And now the day has come. Time to close the final curtain. She's
Yeah,
getting close.
oh,
So
poor.
I wanted to say, you're pretty tight with getting everything up there
What do you mean?
on Noisy Reality.
What do you mean tight?
Well, you gals, you got so many
Oh,
files.
well, playlists are a whole different ballgame. I mean, that's a feature I never knew.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. But I mean, you have to have the individual videos up there. Then they can be part of any playlist.
right, right, right.
You know,
Yeah,
you
no,
could.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that. I'll just spend time on each topic and knock it out.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you is you can edit with YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just go to Google and say it'll walk you through it. You go to the studio
Yeah.
and then it says edit, and then what you can do is you can clip off the
Mm.
beginning, the end, or pieces in the middle. And the main thing you want to do is make sure that you have the original in case you fuck it
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
You can.
yeah. No, no, I'm gonna try to minimize that because the problem is I don't, I mean, thank you for that work you did in the past because I don't have the time to really do that kind of editing and putting in interstitials like you did. So,
That's right.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
problem. That's a weakness because interstitials actually help and they gave it a better quality. And I'm just going straight bang to the but I'll see as time goes on. I mean, it's just a question of getting the
Well,
it's more work. It's more work. Look, it's a lot of work to actually prepare for talking to these people, and that takes a lot of time.
you mean
And
reading a book or
well,
whatever?
reading a book, and then if it's something complicated I don't know about, then further trying to understand it better, and then looking at if they've been frequently interviewed. I try to watch as many of the interviews a person's had with other people so I can get a sense of, what's not said, what is said, how repetitive the guy is or gal is. That's something that takes work. And so I got one person coming up that I think could be an interesting breakout because this woman has gotten, with one TikTok, she got 1 million views.
Uh-huh.
So it's a totally different topic than what I normally deal with. It has to do with horror movies. And this is the person in the class that I was taking this past semester. She's a very nice, smart woman, stone cold feminist. But that's cool. I can handle her.
But
And
I mean, but she was the teacher.
yeah, she was a teacher. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what gave her kickoff on the TikTok.
No, I don't think so. It's the topic she did. She basically argues that uh, movies like uh, Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, she takes a feminist interpretation of them, which is interesting. And I'm going to have to review the book again. I read the book a couple of weeks ago, but I was mentioning it to Michael because Michael will want to pontificate on anything. He could probably pontificate on why people take a piss if they have kidney problems. But he wanted to, oh yeah, yeah, and he starts yakking away. I said, yeah, but you've not dealt with her. You've never once met with her, and he starts criticizing her. I said, okay, that's cool, man, but you don't even know who you're dealing with. I mean, that's what Michael, you just like to, it's not like actors studio improv routine here.
No, no,
Uh,
he's looking for where he's got a participation. It's his monologue or his lines, as
exactly.
opposed to the as an interviewer, you're good at it. That you're only there to guide
Yeah,
the
yeah,
guest
exactly, exactly.
to say what he wants, what you not what you want him to say, but what he wants to say.
Well, yeah, you can't really control. I mean, if you disagree with them, you state it, but you just it's really you want to highlight what their opinions are, not sort of
That's right.
turn it into
That's
an
right. Yeah.
ego. Because like too often, uh, I've watched this happen many times, even with better interviewers, like in New York or elsewhere. They want to insert themselves, and that's fine. I understand that, there's a time when you don't want the guy to filibuster. But at the same time, if they're doing something really interesting, I'd rather listen to them than listen to me. I mean, and I'm trying to think of everybody out there in, TV land. I mean, they don't want to listen to, because you get all these egomaniacs in Pacifica, and these guys want to, dominate or insert themselves and sell themselves. And I understand that. I understand that. You know,
Yeah.
I just don't want to approach it like that because I'm really more interested to allow the person to feel comfortable, to express themselves, and at the same time be having an enjoyable experience. Because usually, an enjoyable experience with some scholar or some big kahuna is they have had their say and have felt that they've expressed themselves and nobody's really interfered with them and fucked with them. I must admit, I'm tempted to go and sit there in front of the broadcast center with a sign protesting what Barry Weiss just did with the 60 Minutes piece. I was thinking about that because that would get, that I know I
Well,
would get publicity with that one.
well, she's controversial because of where's her background. Where does she come from? She's right wing or something.
I knew her vaguely when she was undergraduate at Columbia. And
Yeah.
it was many years ago, and she got
Well,
involved.
she's a
Very,
teenager,
well,
she's
no, she
like
got very
20
involved.
something.
She got involved in a very controversial episode that made national and international headlines, and
Good
she
for her.
and she was one of the people around it. And at the time, I was working in a television outlet, and these guys wanted me to go get involved. And when I discovered what the hell was going on, I said, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I can't. I'm not going to get involved with this bullshit because I knew the guy, and I knew that he had a big mouth." And the thing that I found ridiculous was that this guy would actually, according to this student, would insult the student in the class because he was Jewish. And I thought that was unacceptable bullshit. And I just expressed that. But at the same time, I've knew this is Joe Mossad. If you watch the hearings, he actually was named by the Republicans when they were grilling the president of Colombia. They said, "Well, when are you going to fire this guy?" And Joe just has a big mouth, and he just doesn't he doesn't know when to shut up. Uh, he said the day after October 7th, how brilliant an attack. Well, it was a brilliant attack, but nevertheless, people were in the mood to have somebody celebrate a bunch of killing, and so that that's who she was associated with. That whole situation with the guy when he was teaching, when he got tenure, and that went on. That's a big battle that went on for a couple of years, and that's when she rose to prominence, and that's when I first met her. But anyway.
She was interviewing a guy who just had said something like clickbait, said something that's outrageous, right?
Well, no, she wasn't.
Like he
She
was
wanted. She
saying,
wanted this guy to be. She did not want him to. They wanted. She wanted to fire him. So,
uh-huh.
and that, and again, I said to myself, well, like I knew this guy. I knew that if you're going to take a class with him, I mean, what the fuck do you expect? He's going to act like that. And I guess for some people, they don't
So,
know that because
so
he can.
she was censoring him. She
Well,
wanted him removed because what
well,
he said was uncouth.
well, yeah, because it gets back into the whole BDS movement, which actually started at Columbia. The guy
Yeah.
who came up with the whole BDS idea was in Teachers College. And
Okay.
uh, He probably was there at a time when Mossad was a graduate student. Now, Mossad is sort of, I knew a gay guy who taught at Yale in the architecture school, and we were having dinner with him once. It was maybe 14, 15 years ago. And Joe's name came up, and he said, well, and he described this sort of gay kind of argument that they were having because Joe felt that if you fucked a guy in the ass, you weren't gay. And and this is what this gay, this is what
What do
this
you
is what
have to
this
do
is
to
what the
become
gay
gay?
this is what the gay guy said to me in the dinner. So I said, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that Mossad actually feels that if he takes a dick, or gives, gives somebody, fucks somebody in the ass that he isn't gay? Yeah. And I thought that was complete bullshit. So I just laughed. I laughed my ass off when I heard that one. But anyway, that's
So
Miss.
did he think that you'd had to be receiving, catching, as they say?
Well, the other thing he did was he argued that Western imperialism brought homosexuality to the Middle East, which I consider even more bullshit, because I thought of all the examples I could bring up of cultural behavior in the Middle East that is, that basically condones.
Historic old.
Yeah, yeah, I said it would be a waste of time to argue with somebody who actually made such a stupid, specious argument like that. And I've always stayed out of it, but that's Barry Weiss. That's the milieu that she was sort of cultivated in responding to that situation. So now, years later, Ellison's bought her fucking rag for $150 million, so made her an independently wealthy person. And then they hired her to be the editor in chief at CBS. And, I know people who work at CBS. I myself had my little experience with them. They make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at the piece, it was vetted several times, and basically, it's a damaging look at the Trump administration sending these people up to El Salvador. So the hell with
Oh,
them.
you're talking about the recent flap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she's now defending it and all the, like, give me a
She's
break.
defending not airing it.
Well, she's defending allowing the Trump administration to come in and quote comment on it for objectivity purposes. And I'm saying to myself, well, that's ridiculous. Like that is allowing, if you're actually investigating some institution or a person or a process, yeah, sure, you have to make sure if you're going to take a stance like that, that you have fact checked up the wazoo because you can get sued. But her attitude, and Stephen Miller, by the way, just said today, well, they should fire everybody at 60 Minutes. So you know what? I'm tempted to sit there and go in front of that fucking broadcast center with a sign and just sit there and start, yeah, and protesting what the fuck's going on. It's just like, fuck you, motherfuckers. I've had enough of this shit.
So 1 second. So, but Barry Weiss, I don't know anything about her, but I'm just trying to get her gist. Is
She's a
she's
conservative.
protecting the public from bad information,
No, well, no,
like protecting the public from what do you call it? Holocaust deniers
no,
and
no. Well, I don't know what she's doing that, but this in this case,
so, but she's protecting protecting the
no, she's
public. She's saying,
protecting the Trump. She's protecting Trump because she's doing
no,
the.
in this case, she's protecting Trump. I'm saying historically, before she made the
No,
big
she's
sale.
a right. Well, if you know, she's also was someone who was fired, who left the New York Times, and
She left the New York Times or
yeah,
was
she was
fired.
the same kind of bullshit. She
What's
was.
the bullshit? I didn't get
Oh, she
what
was
her angle
basically.
was.
They
What's her
hired her.
angle?
They hired her angle is, right wing diversity, and fine. That's fine. I don't really give a shit if somebody's going to have a different political point of view, being in a newspaper like the Washington Post or New York Times. But in her case, she made this big stink and was accusing them of liberal bias. And I'm saying to myself, like, first of all, how many people I know who work for the New York Times and I've had dinner with, I've gotten stoned with over the past 50 to 60 years. And like I'm saying to
And
myself,
for how dare
no,
they say these people were
no, no,
not
no.
left
But
wing?
but but the thing is, it gets me. It's like, she doesn't know what these are people. One guy who I don't know, he's now a Metro editor. When he was working for the New York Times, the first job he was shot in the head
Yeah, so
on the Nicaragua. Well, what do you mean so? This fucking cunt never did anything like that. And this
No,
guy
no,
was
getting
down
shot
there.
doesn't make him a hero.
Well, I'm not saying it makes him a hero, but what it does say is that here's this guy actually down there in Nicaragua covering the Contra Wars,
Yeah,
gets shot in the fucking head, and
yeah,
he's a guy who takes very seriously the question of journalism. That is that there's certain things that you are very careful about. You don't jump. Pacifica is always filled with people who think they're journalists, but basically are opinion reporters.
yeah.
And that's fine, but don't try to tell me that you're actually trying to be objective. I mean, yeah, sure, it's impossible to be totally objective, but you try to, if you're going to report and assert a fact or a story that's controversial, well, you know what? You better get your shit together if you're going to do that. And
But you're saying that this lady make what's her name? Weiss, right?
very, very wise.
Barry Weiss. Well, I gotta. It's that you're saying that she should not have said, "Wait a second, let's just give the administration a chance to counterpoint whatever's going
Well,
to be presented."
we don't even know for all I know, the administration was approached. I mean, we don't know any of this. But anyway, the main point is that 60 Minutes is not going to uh, I'm sure they've made mistakes. My whole association with CBS was when they made a major mistake and got sued by General Westmoreland. So I'm
Yeah,
very aware of what they can do and not do and how journalism can fuck up. But lessons are learned. And look at the guy who just died, Peter Arnett. Now, Peter Arnett is somebody who I respected immensely. I considered a friend. I always enjoyed meeting him. I mean, I'm not saying, he was somebody who said, "Oh, that's Jim," but I've met him over the past 30, 40 years. And he, unfortunately, got caught up in a big controversy at CNN and got fired.
yeah.
And that really fucked him up. And that was due to the fact that they were sloppy, involved in examining a very controversial story. Now, listen, you come on to these kind of forums, like you'll hear Frank. Frank was giving me this ridiculous. He would give this ridiculous argument last night about he was basically backing up the conspiracy theories of Charlie Kirk being assassinated by the Mossad. And I said, well, what are you saying to me, Frank? Like you're basically mouthing off everything that Candace Owens has said.
Yeah.
Because that chick puts in the fucking chicken sink. And a kitchen, yeah, it's completely. She says the Foreign Legion was involved. It's just too much. I mean, who knows? She could be right, but basically, to me, it's all, unverified, idiotic speculation.
Yeah.
And Pacifica is filled with dopes like that. Okay. My experience in Pacifica is that I encountered people all the time who, because they don't want to do the hard work of looking at something carefully, they immediately jump to the, first kind of ideologically motivated explanation and stick with it. And so I would always have fights at BAI with people like that all the time.
Okay. Well, that's a big, interesting topic. How do you adjudicate? We all know that the government is a secret, as it does all kinds of stuff that it doesn't talk about, makes false presentations, convinces the public, manipulates publics abroad and domestically. So to say that having a feeling or reporting on a concept that there's something the government's doing that they're not disclosing, or that it's secret and harmful, that's not really that newsy. That happens all the time. So you can't say that just because it isn't, you didn't hear it on 60 Minutes or somewhere else, CNN. That doesn't mean it's not true,
Right.
you know. So, you got to have the door open for some of that stuff. I mean, what's his name? The guy who used to be on KPFK, geez, I'm terrible with the names. That comedian, he's and now he's right. He's no now he's just talking politics, much not so much humor.
Are you talking about Jimmy Dore?
Jimmy Dore, right? He's there with Robert Kennedy, and
Well, he's into his own crazy shit. I mean,
well, it's crazy, but if it's documented, it's true.
well, no, it's not much. Well, that's the problem. See, is it documented? How's it documented? You're citing him being associated with Robert Kennedy.
Yeah,
Robert Kennedy, look at what he's doing right now with knocking out basically inoculations of children. I
Uh-huh.
mean, for basic diseases. I mean, and he asserts his opinions are true, but do I want him to be defining health policy for the
Who do
United
you
States
want?
of America?
Who
Fuck
do you
no.
want?
I
Who?
want people. I want people
Fauci?
who are knowledgeable.
How about Fauci?
I don't have a conspiracy attitude about Fauci. You know,
Fauci's okay by you.
hell yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, great,
Okay,
good.
Daryl wants to jump in. Daryl wants to
Okay,
jump.
Fauci's fine. Okay.
Let Daryl jump in here.
Yeah, Daryl. Okay, so we're talking about conspiracy. But
Do
one
you
thing, I just
know?
one last
Go
thing
ahead.
for Jim, because Jim's going to be able to answer this. Why did CBS take Barry Weiss or whatever her name is?
It was Ellison. It was when they got merged. It was when the Ellisons bought Paramount, and then they bought CBS. And so her whole presence is a reflection of the father Ellison. It's a reflection of David Ellison, and they wanted to take it under control. And supposedly, who knows? We've had leaks of Trump talking to these people and urging them to quote change the tenor of CBS. So you've got that kind of issue going on. But yeah, the Ellison family buying Paramount is
Well,
what it
you're telling me
was.
who, but I'm asking why.
What do you mean why? They want to knock out, they want to basically knock out a independent voice of journalism. That's what they want to do.
Oh, so it's a malicious intent to
I,
control the
I
media and what the public hears.
no, it's not a question. You're sort of saying it sarcastically.
Well, that's no, you said to knock out
Yeah,
journalism.
well, yeah.
That's nasty. That's a
That
nasty
well that
statement.
well that is what is all there's first of all, this issue has been covered pretty extensively since the Ellisons bought Paramount.
Okay,
And
that's why I'm asking you.
yeah,
What
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
is
Well, that
why? Why did they want her?
why? Because they knew that she would politically shift the entire news division.
From what to
And
what?
the news division is a pretty independent outfit over there at CBS.
What change would she make? I'm not I
Well,
don't
we see it
know.
right now. We see it right now with the fact that they're suppressing this story. All
All right,
right.
so she would put a restraint or a halter on
On independent journalism.
left
No,
leaning
no, no, no.
news.
That's where you get it wrong. Left
Okay.
leaning news. What is sending somebody who's not who you look at the people she puts on the show about this piece that got leaked. These
Yeah.
people were not individuals who had done anything criminally. They're sent down to a fucking concentration camp like Seagal.
Okay, okay, okay,
Forget about it.
okay.
Has nothing to do with
Okay.
left leaning
So
stuff.
there's nothing in that that's questionable. That's absolutely
Uh,
certain.
well, you can go read it yourself.
I
Now
know.
you're
I haven't
stating your
watched it.
opinion. Now you're stating your opinion. You're not really.
No, no, no. I'm not saying I haven't
Oh
watched it
no.
or
Well, yeah.
anything.
Well, have you investigated or looked at the coverage of the prison down there in El Salvador? Any
Sure.
depth? Right. Well, is that a place Trump basically wants to have a safe place to whisk off people and disappear them? He could do that same thing to the average Americans if he gets his way. So that's why it has to be opposed totally.
Uh-huh. Okay, great.
And fuck
Okay,
'em.
so it's very comparable to Guantanamo Bay.
It's worse than Guantanamo Bay.
A place where you could get away with doing whatever you want and
Well,
nobody will
you can
challenge it.
watch what goes on down there. There's a lot of
Okay, so it's very comparable or harmonic to Guantanamo
No, I'd
Bay,
say
which
it's worse. I'd say
happened
it's worse.
underneath the Bush administration.
I'd say it's worse than Guantanamo Bay.
It's worse than
Oh yeah,
Guantanamo Bay.
I mean Guantanamo, and that's like Guantanamo. That's like on a scale of 1 to 10, you got a 10 with Guantanamo, you got 11 or 12 or 13 with Seagot down there.
Well, neither you nor I have been to either one, so we just have
Yeah,
word of
but
mouth.
what's different about you saying that to me is I actually know people who've been lawyers down in Guantanamo. So
Yeah.
I'm aware of what, based on my talk and discussions with those type of people,
Okay.
what goes on down at Guantanamo. So I could say that
And you're aware of what goes on in the streets of El Salvador prior to them arresting
well, I
everybody.
know damn well that what occurred down there was they wanted to break the power of the gangs and all the
Right.
going on. That
They
is
were
a
number one murder capital of the world.
yeah. Okay, fine. Well,
Now they have
want to
zero.
go defend that shit? Fine, go do it.
Well,
That's
I mean, what about the
fine.
people? What about the
I mean,
people? Are
what?
there more gangsters? Are there more gang members than there are public?
No, fuck no.
So why don't we take more concern for the public than for the gang members being
Oh, that
abused?
this has nothing to do. We're talking about Barry Weiss deciding to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
press
yeah.
a 60 Minutes piece that supports the deportation policy of Trump. And as far as I'm
Right.
concerned,
On the basis
and
that
I
they're
would say
being
this to
sent
you,
to,
I would say this to you, Kenny,
yeah, go
with
ahead.
what's going on right now with this, I address you as a Jew. This
No,
is
no, don't address me
no,
as a
oh
Jew.
yes, indeed.
Don't,
This is
no,
like the
Jim, I'm going to
Nazis.
address you as
This is the
you're a
fucking. This is like the
left-wing
fucking
Catholic.
Nazis, man.
You're a
Just like the
Catholic.
fucking
You're
Nazis.
a former Catholic. You
No,
hate the
I'm not a
Catholic
Catholic.
Church.
I'm not a Catholic.
You're
That's
Catholic. I said so.
well, well,
Why do you
well,
say I'm a Jew?
well.
How do
You
you
were
know
born
my
a Jew.
religious
You were
beliefs?
born a Jew.
No,
You were raised a Jew, were you not?
no,
Oh, really?
no, of
Bullshit.
course not.
Get out of here. Okay, Kenny,
Does that
don't.
come from New York, Brooklyn? Come on.
Oh, yeah,
The
right.
secular capital of the
Yeah, all
Jewish.
right, fine. I'm just well, Hitler wouldn't have given a shit. He would have gone after you in terms of your blood relations.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. So,
And they come after you because you're wearing glasses. I
well,
mean,
whatever, whatever.
what kind of horseshit is that?
Completely
Every time you say every
fucking
Jew has to
what?
agree with you?
No, no. What? What? Every Jew has to agree with me. Look, what they're doing right now is just like what Hitler did, except it's
I'm going to
American
interrupt you.
style.
I really resent it because when something happened, like 9/11, somebody came up to me and says, "Oh, you're Jewish. I know. I feel bad for you." I said, "Get out of
What the
here.
fuck does that
Get
have to
out
do
of
with
here. Don't
911?
label
What the
me.
fuck?
Don't label anybody."
Hold tight. What the fuck does 911 have to do with you being Jewish? Nothing.
I don't know. No,
So
maybe
that
it was after somebody
we're
got
talking about. I'm
massacred.
talking about the comparison of what Hitler did after he comes into power in
Yeah,
1933,
Hitler's dead. It's
goes
a
after
hundred
all
years
his
ago.
fucking enemies, incarcerates them.
Uh-huh.
Trump is trying to copy that with what he's doing with his deportation policy.
Yeah.
What
So,
did Hitler
okay.
want to do? He wanted to deport all his enemies, including and Jews were the main enemy, out of the state of
I
Germany.
like Stalin. Stalin killed more people than Hitler did. Stalin was a communist. He killed 40, 50,
What does
60
this have
million
to do
people.
with? Yeah, okay, fine. We're not talking about an analogy.
Well, why go to Hitler? Why not go to Stalin?
Well,
He
because
was
the
a much bigger tyrant
comparison
than Hitler.
the comparison well that you're so what that then trivializes Hitler.
What about Mao Zedong? How many people did he
But
kill? His
does
own
that
people.
trivialize
His
that?
own people. His own people.
First of all, that to me,
I'm not saying that. I'm just
they're
saying
not, they're false
it's a straw
equivalencies.
dog to go to
They're
Hitler.
false
Hitler, Hitler, Hitler,
equivalencies.
Hitler, Hitler.
They're
Why
false
don't you go to a
equivalencies.
communist? Why don't you go
Well,
to
what
a
do you mean? Well,
communist
because
tyrant?
that's a separate issue altogether.
Then
Yes,
stop
you're
using
going
it.
to sit there. No, just that's ridiculous. You're going to sit there and argue that Mao Zedong is worse
No,
than
I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing your reference to it. If you want to
Hitler.
criticize Trump, criticize Trump. Stop saying, "Oh, he's Hitler." That's the
Well,
horseshit. That's
what do
horseshit.
you mean horseshit? What
It's manipulation. It's
bullshit?
manipulation. Of course
What
it
do you
is.
think? Look at what's going on in the MAGA movement.
I don't use Hitler as a standard.
The idiots are arguing over their tolerance of Adolf Hitler and Nazism. I mean, don't you see what's going? Did you watch what happened last weekend in Phoenix? They're sitting there arguing about that shit. So that's not. I'm not making it up. That's what they're arguing about.
Who?
The fucking right wing in our country.
Yeah.
Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly opposing Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin.
Because they support Hitler.
Tucker Carlson putting
Because
on Nick
what does it have
Fuentes.
to do?
They
What does
put
it have
on
to do
Nick
with Hitler?
Fuentes, who openly supports Hitler.
So what?
What do you mean, so what? That's a fact. He
Yes, I
doesn't
know it
deny
is.
that. So
No,
what are you talking about? These are the ideas permeating these people.
no, 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 no.
No, no,
The
no.
thing is permeating is free speech. Don't be afraid of
Oh,
somebody saying
okay,
out.
fine. Nazis do not give a fuck about free speech. They want to. What did
Well,
Goebbels say?
do you give a shit about it?
What did Goebbels say?
Do
We're
you
going
give a
to
shit
use the
about it?
free speech. Are you damn right I do? However,
Okay, so do you want to let
do
somebody
I
say something you
why
disagree with?
wait, you're what you're what you're you You are forgetting what the Nazis argue. They want to
No,
take
no, no, no.
advantage.
What do
No, no,
you
no. They
go ahead?
actually said that we will manipulate your laws in the Weimar Republic over free speech so we can take power.
Every communist person,
The
they called it the long distance, the long term takeover through the colleges. All of the communist philosophers, they talked about how are we going to soften the West.
What's
You
this?
know,
You
we
think you
could
listen
talk
to Rush
about them
Limbaugh?
too, what they said. If you believe in free speech, then you let somebody say something you totally disagree with. You
Yeah,
don't
all
shut
right,
them up.
fine, fine. But does that mean I have to? But that doesn't mean I have to agree with him.
Of
That
course
if
not.
somebody decides to defend Hitler,
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with him. I don't have to tolerate him.
You don't have to listen
Fuck him.
to it. You don't have
Fuck
to
him.
listen to it.
No, I'll
No.
listen to him. I'll fight him because
Fine,
I
do
will
that.
not.
You well, as
No,
long as nobody
no,
stops you from fighting them, as long as nobody says Jim is being too rough on Hitler,
no.
you know, you want freedom of speech.
Look,
I listened to 10 seconds of, I wanted to hear what they were critical of with Nick Fuente. He's not insane. He's got an ideas. Let's say you
he
started
thinks he thinks that.
factually, he says, let's get rid of the Jews because they're suppressing Germany. And here's the reason why and blah blah blah. Okay, and then somebody else in another country says, "Let's make black people slaves," and another country says, "These are just Chinese people; they don't count. Kill them, commit experiments on them." There's human insanity all over the place. To pick one and say the one I disagree with is the only one that has to be censored. Nobody can support Hitler because I said so.
Well, that has nothing to do with I said so. In Europe, they have laws about that. And what
In
did
Europe, they had laws. In
hold
Germany,
on.
yeah.
They were occupied by Nazi Germany. They have their reasons to make that type of thought illegal.
I
And I
understand.
agree with them 100%.
Well, you could agree with it. That's fine. Good.
But you're
Okay.
trivializing Nick Fuentes openly supports Hitler.
What
That
did
so
he do? What did he break any laws? Did he commit
well,
a crime? Did he incite a riot or incite a crime? Did he tell somebody to go kill
but
somebody? What did
that
he do?
normalizes that well, if you normalize Nazism,
What if somebody
eventually
comes up
that'll
and
lead
says, what if somebody
people.
comes up and says the feminist movement is destroying America?
Yeah, and they do. They argue that all the time.
Okay, should they be
But we
censored?
experienced that for 70 years. What's
Should
so
they
new
be
about that?
censored? Should they be censored?
Well, you forget that the people who actually support Nazism in America have actually carried out terrorism, armed terrorism.
Yeah, there's not a group that
There have been
hasn't,
there's been examples of that in the past 60 to
except for the
70.
Quakers. Even the Mormons had they destroyed a town and killed people. They had a riot and a massacre. Even the Mormons, not the Quakers, but the
What does that have
Mormons.
to do? Look, this has nothing to do with
Well,
what
you could
you're
point to
basically.
anybody's
I go back to
scars.
Barry Weiss. I go back to Barry Weiss, which is
Okay,
one.
Barry Weiss, right?
And she's acting as a tool of the Trump administration
Ah,
by
okay.
doing what she's doing. Simple as that. And she was
She's
paid
on the payroll with
$150
this,
million dollars by Ellison to buy her free press.
right?
Great payoff. And then she is sitting there deliberately acting as a functionary of state propaganda by suppressing a piece like this, which quite fortuitously got leaked. So that's that.
Right.
And to me, it's indefensible to do that. And it's indefensible to basically, uh, sit there and trivialize what you're doing with the issue of Nazism.
Are
Completely.
you okay with the disclosure of the Somalian fraud cases in Minnesota?
Any fraud case should be disclosed. Let's
Well,
see
no,
what
I'm
the facts
saying
are about that.
specifically the Muslims
Yeah, well,
in.
let's see what the fact is. I haven't even had time to look at it. Uh,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so I don't pretend to know or anything about it. If I will, at some point I'll sit there and try to look at what the facts are, but I don't accept, somebody saying something is so and then it has to be so until I've scrutinized it myself. And I,
Right.
I haven't scrutinized that. I have no opinion on that one way or the other.
Okay. But it's okay that they report it.
Hell yeah. Well, let's see if it's true. But
Okay.
hey, look what's going on right now. We have all these reports. They spent what 1,000 people were put aside back in March to look through all those files of Epstein, and now we're having all this bullshit about,
Uh-huh.
fucking Trump, like being accused of, like,
Why do you have that language?
what do you mean by that language? We're not recording.
You could say President Trump. Why do you say fucking Trump? How
Yeah,
about if I say, and here's scumbag Jim Dingman?
you can say that. And I
Yeah.
can say that fucking Trump. I mean, I don't give a damn. I mean, Trump deserves every word directed at him.
Every critical remark, everything.
Pure
Okay.
and simple. He is
Okay.
destroying the country.
He's
Okay.
destroying the country by
Listen,
himself. There he is. He's a
no,
Superman.
he's leading the charge, and he wants to be a dictator, and that's it. Who people oppose that. Period.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Let
Thank you.
Daryl jump in. Let Daryl.
Okay. Hey, Daryl. So, did you ever see two people argue so overtly and openly on the media, on the internet, as Jim and I are
Um,
barking at each
I've
other?
I've yet to experience anything the way the two of you seek to find weak points in your egos and then dance on that rather than the facts. Jim, could you go back to the first scandal or the first capitulation by Paramount? Was it around the Late Show, or was it around something else
Colbert.
before they did the
It was about
merger?
Colbert. It's when they canceled Colbert.
Right. So they
That's
canceled Colbert in order to get that merger through with what's the name of the company?
well, they bought the merger with Paramount, but that had to be approved by the FCC. So there's the politics of that. We don't know. That's what people have asserted occurred. That-
Okay, and now they're in a dance over um with Netflix over oh man, over somebody else.
Well, yeah,
So
because Trump with Netflix, they're fighting over. They put together that deal to buy Warner Brothers,
there
and,
you go.
and Warner
Okay, so they
Brothers.
wanted to buy the Warner Brothers, especially the film catalog, right?
Well, not only that, but see, there's other parts of it because Jared Kushner got
Sure.
involved in the deal.
Oh no, I'm
And
talking. They want all of it to boost up. What's the name of the company? Blue.
I forget they renamed the company that they own, but
Right,
but
but the deal is now, what does this have to do with Zionism? Because um, Larry Ellison has a great claim to a friendship with Benjamin Netanyahu, and is that fact?
they are indeed politically aligned with an uncritical or a supportive Netanyahu. I think that's pretty objectively true.
And
Um,
the
his son,
Adelson.
well,
So
Adelson's in the backdrop there. I mean, Adelson's always interfering with stuff. They're always throwing money around to Trump. Like what did his wife, the Adelson, the woman at the White House just said she'd give him money if he decides to violate whatever amendment restricts a president from running for a third term. She said that openly in a press conference just about a couple of weeks ago. But they want to, they basically, all the press stories have been talking about how Trump's excited over the fact they can, knock out CNN, fire a bunch of people at CNN and turn it into Fox or something like Fox. They've openly talked about this.
right. And so the idea is to make the media more in the Russian mode than the quote unquote traditional United States mode.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, I would say that.
All right, Ken,
What?
are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't beating up on Trump. Trump is just taking advantage. Let me rephrase that because that's a little. Trump is doing what Trump has always done in the business world. It's a deal, right? If someone's going to give me money, or if I have access to a way to extract money from someone, then it's my duty, according to Fred Trump, to win.
Yeah.
So he's always going for the win. Now,
Yes,
sometimes,
yes, yes. So the question, I think the major question is, I would anticipate the way Jim would react to it. Is he 50-50 Trump and the US, or is he 40, or is he 80 self and 20% maybe it's good for the US too, but it's got to be 80%, it's got to benefit me. That's why I'm doing it. I don't
what do you
understand that
think?
because
No, but forget Jim. What do you think?
I just think of the policies, and I don't think the first thing I wanted to talk about here is Russia is attacking Turkish ships that were dealing with the oil and that was supposed to be sanctioned from Venezuela. So this is moving us step
The
by
Russians
step
are?
close to war.
The Russians are?
No, no. Yeah, yes, the Russians strike Ukrainian Black Sea ports again. So that
Yeah, but that's not that. What does that have to do with Venezuela?
well, you'll see in the report. But
Oh, okay.
it's a question. It's that Trump's the current administration is moving towards a war. Like I'm not totally opposed to that, and the killing of the ships. And like you said, they're spending too much money and just wasting it, and just being bravado and macho, and they're not handling it properly. It's just like with Israel. I've always thought that Israel's major mistake was they should have made sure that the Palestinian territories or countries or whatever were prosperous and doing well, and to show to the world that being an ally with Israel was the best thing you could do. Show that to the Arab world, that Israel was only concerned about the success and well-being of the Palestinians. Not doing that was a big mistake. That's their
Yeah, but
mistake.
Paul Newman had it in mind.
Yeah, so that's a mistake they made. So I don't care with the Trump and this and that. I don't like the idea of people who don't, people who are not successful generally attack people who are successful because it's kind of a jealousy thing. So, Trump is bad because he's so successful, because he's a con man and a crook, and he's the worst person in the world, and he sold his soul to the devil. But he can't be doing this for money. I know what he's doing for money. That's I don't know why he isn't
Oh,
being sued for that, attacked for his personal income activities, selling gold and selling watches and doing things
Don't
like
forget
that.
the AR-15s.
They have AR-15s and this and that. All that. He's exploiting his position as president. I don't know legally if it's legal or not, but that's something should be impeachable.
yeah,
The
but
emolument clause, and they don't have
No,
the
no, no.
vote.
That's where you're That's where you're receiving benefits from foreign countries. That's the emollient clause.
but he is.
Oh, okay.
He's been exploiting that ever since he came into the White House. I
Well,
mean,
then why isn't he being prosecuted?
because he has control of Congress. Simple as that. And he controls the
Okay.
executive branch. I mean, that's obvious.
Well, I don't know if anybody's made
Well,
even an attempt to put an order through, and he didn't control the media. Then the
what do
media
you
is not
watch?
coming up with it.
What do you watch for political information? They're railing
No,
about
no,
him
no.
all
The
the time.
mainstream media has not been attacking him about his emoluments, whatever, however you
Well, the
pronounce it.
monument. Well, they
You could
sued
point out
for
maybe
Trump.
some alternative left-wing media, maybe, or
No, no, what
something.
alternative left wing media? Like what? CNN's left wing?
No,
MSNBC?
what campaign do they have
What do
criticizing
you
or
mean campaign?
attacking?
They're always bringing up the fact that he increased his family's wealth since he got in on
Yeah,
January 20th. He's what, doubled or tripled his family's wealth.
I
Oh, then
understand.
we
And
don't
they've
know
also said the
what.
same thing about Nancy Pelosi,
So
and
well,
all the congressmen are doing inside
did
training.
Nancy that well, okay. Did Nancy Pelosi increase her personal wealth by $2 to $3 billion in the space of 5 to 10 months?
Well,
No.
she's not competent. So even
Incompetent.
AOC has become a multimillionaire.
What
So
does that have
there's
to
lots
do?
of corruption throughout the
No,
Congress.
look,
I'm talking about the emoluments
yeah,
where I haven't heard a consistent or a thing even on one of these specialized programs. I forget the name of them. Frontline. Haven't heard. Just not they're not going after it. But I
well,
mean, I don't see where he isn't. He might be wanting to be president and wanting to have things named in his changing the name of the Kennedy Center and saying he's going to make a Trump class of aircraft carriers or whatever.
well,
He's a narcissistic egomaniac. Okay, but I don't see that his political actions are exclusively or 80% just for his own personal gain.
that's ridiculous because look at what we see with Ukraine. Ukraine, the Wall Street Journal had an exclusive piece that basically talked about how they are setting the whole peace process up with Ukraine so that they can make a lot of money with the Russian business people. They want to basically trade the defensive systems of Ukraine.
Who's they?
The Trump administration,
You
Trump
mean the Trump
off,
family is going to make money
Trump
from this?
family, the cronies like Witkoff, they want to basically, as part of their sellout of the Ukrainians, they want to essentially trade the defensive systems that the Ukrainians have built up for the past few years as part of the deal that they will get. I mean, it was a pretty provocative article. Then, if you look at the situation in Israel, Gaza, they just literally just 2 days ago published a piece about how they want to make money in Gaza after they have quote put 112 billion dollars in it. They want to, it's a furtherance of this whole idea of turning into the Riviera of the Middle East.
Yeah,
So,
what's wrong with that idea?
what do you know what's wrong with that? It's just, but what it demonstrates is that he always thinks about numero uno himself, how to make money about everything he does. We have
Okay.
that crypto business set up. We can't even figure out how much money he's ripping off. So,
Okay, that's fine.
so
So
what do you
let's
mean
let's
that's
let's
fine?
let some
That's a
other people
fact.
talk. Let's
Well,
some other people
you're
talk.
the one who brought this up.
No, no, no. I'm
You're the
answering a
one who brought it
question
up.
Daryl asked me a question.
Well,
I don't see where he's doing this exclusively for his
well,
own
you're
benefit.
not reading the paper
Oh,
then.
you
You're not
just
reading the
disagree with me.
newspapers.
That's
You're
fine.
not
You
reading the
disagree.
newspapers. You're not reading. It's not a question of disagree. You're not reading the
I
newspapers.
don't know what Biden did to do
Oh,
any diplomacy.
3 million bucks. Hold on, 3 million bucks. The Hunter Biden scandal. What, 3 to 4 million bucks, as opposed to
Yeah, it's
$400 million for a jet that was given to him by Qatar, and then he's basically and
Well,
they've
this
not
is
disputed that he's raised
look,
his,
look,
his
look,
wealth
Ken.
by $2 billion. Come on, Kitty, that's
okay.
This
This
ridiculous.
is
is this
open
is the
for
phenomena of people who have
what,
not done
Ken. What you
anything in the
don't
world.
understand is this is open corruption. This is
Yeah, it's
like
Yeah,
open
he doesn't
corruption.
care. He doesn't
nobody,
care.
and who the hell is going to trust? All they'll think is, oh, I could buy the president now. Other countries, but who's going to trust the U.S.? So it's just whoever
Oh,
has the highest bidder.
well,
Okay.
Who give the president the most money can whatever run our
Okay,
Middle
so
Eastern policy
so
or
I
whatever.
understand that there's nobody in this milieu
But
who's has any admiration for any of the things that have been done during this administration. You don't agree
not
with
this.
closing the border. You don't agree with stopping
No,
Iran from funding terrorist acts. You don't agree with stopping the
that's
pirates
no,
wait,
from
wait, hold
bombing
tight, hold
ships.
that's
tight, hold
he's
tight.
not
You
stopping
don't agree
anything.
with
The
setting
U.S. is
back.
the biggest funder of the U.S. is the biggest funder of Islamic terrorism in the 20th century. The
Well, with
U.S.
not
The U.S. created Islamist
you hear
terrorism.
that?
You know,
Okay, so let's go to Daryl. Daryl, how do you? Are you with these guys? Absolutely. The U.S. is responsible for all the evil in the world for the last 300 years at least. How you going?
Are you really
you can
asking me
ask the
that
black guy
I'm
question?
that.
asking if you're in agreement with
Yes.
that principle.
I mean, seriously, Ken,
Yeah, go ahead.
did you ask me that question?
I did. You agree?
Okay, so you're saying that you don't understand what it is to be an African American in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
wouldn't.
have
Wouldn't it be
no knowledge at all. You haven't been around any African Americans to understand. Okay, am I a citizen in the United States?
What?
I was born in what is it, St. Luke's Hospital when it was at
Yeah.
110th in Amsterdam. Am I
Okay.
a citizen of the United States?
I think so.
I like to think so too, but thinking so and being so is two totally different things.
Okay,
Okay, we're
wait a
about the
second.
same
No, no,
age,
no, no.
right?
You're changing the subject. The question is, do
Yes.
you agree with this viewpoint that the United States is responsible for all the problems in the world for the last 300 years?
Not 300 years, you're only 250 years old. But
Well,
you
yeah,
could go
but
back that far if you want because
okay.
because of
But
the
at
land
least okay.
speculation.
So you just disagree. You could it's more appropriate to say for the last 200 years.
What I'm more interested in is what is the purpose of that question in the
Um,
context that I'm failing to give you the satisfaction of saying, "Oh, he's just another one of those people."
there you
No,
go. So what is the
no.
question? What is the definition of discrimination or racism?
Okay, discrimination, everyone has a right to do.
Uh-huh.
Discrimination is having a prejudice to what it is you prefer. And everyone has a right to do that.
Okay.
Racism is a power thing. Racism means that I get to tell you whether you get employed, whether you get health care, whether you get food, whether you get paid, whether you whether you have the right to breathe on your own, or whether the person who has the power can dictate your inhale and your exhale, whether you get a body autonomy, whether you're recognized as a human being.
By everybody.
I think I'm still working on
No,
that
it's
one.
this is about the state, as Daryl's pointed out. This
Are
is
you
about
by
power and government mostly, well, but also can be about
No, wait a minute. Now, are you
corporations.
referring to the population or just the state?
I'm referring to anyone who has the power
Yeah.
to control my movements. Oh wow, that's why. Sorry about that. Little revelation here. Um, where am I? I I have I have a problem with people who fail to understand that it truly makes a difference in this country what your life experience is. All right, so now if you grew up at a time in which you had to be very, very careful to not offend anyone who had more power than you, and the power was invested in the phenotype of the individual, not only that, separate but equal meant you get a campus that looks like Notre Dame, and I get a campus that looks more like Sugar Ditch, Mississippi. Um, there, there, there's a lot of talk in this country, and now it's getting down to like the serious stuff about equality and oh, we don't need diversity and we don't need inclusion because the market will take care of that. Well, I don't know if you want to be a woman in the 50s or the 40s and play that same game as compared to all the scientists and bureaucrats that you see on television today who just happen to be women. Now, how did they get there? They got there simplistically through Rosa Parks sitting down and saying, I ain't moving. Now you can do what you want, but I'm not moving. And then they did move her into the jail and then it went through the system, whatever. The other piece is that what makes the United States of America any better than its prototype, Nazi Germany? Nazism was based on the racial theories coming out of the United States of America. So don't beat up on Hitler because he read the book. He just looked at the laws and said, hey, that worked pretty good. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I don't want no sympathy. I don't want no quote unquote reparations because I'm going to end up paying for it anyway out of my taxes, right? What I want is how do you come to the point in which you have any consciousness around someone else's experience? When I heard about what this country did to the Chinese, to the point that they wouldn't allow females into the country so that any male who was here was up the creek. Because if he tried to date a white woman, he'd get lynched. Hey, that seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
Daryl, what you're
Yeah.
talking about is at least 100 years old.
No, it's more like
No.
150, 200 years old. But that only cuts ice if you fail to remember that to this day,
Yeah.
the quote unquote white woman is sacred. And even if you don't have any kind of relationship with a white woman, even in 2025, now I know that sounds bizarre. If you're in a certain part of the country, you're going to get hurt. And
What
I'm
about,
talking
wait a minute,
about
wait a minute,
seriously
wait a
hurt.
minute, wait a minute. Slow down right there. What part of the country?
I don't know, could be upstate New York
No,
where
no, pick a place. What percentage of the country is repressive to anybody?
put it like
Let's
this,
say,
I wouldn't be I'm
what
not
part
going to
of the
hide.
country is repressive to females, white females or females?
Um hmm.
Washington,
I
D.C.,
would suggest since the
New
pay
York
isn't
State,
equal,
where?
I would say since the pay still isn't equal, anywhere you want, you pick it.
The pay scale isn't equal. Okay. So anywhere in the U.S. is
The
suppressive.
opportunity isn't equal, and didn't the new Secretary of War go after trans soldiers and I'm not
That's
sure if
true.
he went after gay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, great, great. Now you're out of my scope. I give up. You're
Let,
concerned about
let
the
me ask you.
trans. Fine,
Let me
fine.
ask you. Let me ask you to look at this, okay? See, because that's a trigger word, and I wanted to see what you were going to do with it.
No, I'm not doing with it.
If
You're
you had,
doing with it.
No, you're triggered. Can't admit it.
what am I going to do with it? I'm going to ask, with less than 1% of the population again. I think there are 9 NCAA athletes who qualify. Why do you need laws? And who cares what bathroom you're going in unless you got some kind of sickness, right? I remember when I was in college. Well, I wasn't in college that long. I remember during the time when I was supposed to be in college, they had unisex bathrooms. But I guess maybe in 1970 that was a more advanced time. If you're going in to go to the bathroom and you're going in to put on your makeup or whatever, I don't see where it's a big deal. However, it appears to be sacrosanct. And all these quote unquote Christians that don't know anything about the Bible, that they read consistently and quote a lot of Old Testament, not too much New Testament, when they want to talk about these issues. So what I'm asking you is, and I'm getting a revelation. There was a little girl who had a gene defect, and she was doomed. And they were able to do a CRISPR move, cut out the bad gene, put in a good gene, and they were able to save her life. And what I was getting out of that was, okay, what if you looked at the DNA of a person who's trans, and you say, you know, I'm in this body, but my brain tells me that this ain't the body I'm supposed to be in. Do I have that right? Do I have that right? That's a question.
He's asking you, Ken.
Talk to a lawyer. Don't talk to me
Oh,
about that. When you say, do you have that right? You're not asking for my opinion. You're asking, do you have the legal rights? So it
no,
depends what states
I'm
you're in.
actually asking.
you can
I'm
ask
actually
as,
asking
do you
both.
think that's
You'd
a
have to
citizen?
ask, what state you're in, because the laws are changing in different states. There's 19 states that don't allow. I don't know how many, but it's something like 19 or
Whatever.
23 states that have stopped or made illegal to do transgender operations on minors under the age of 18.
Yeah, but
So
I
it's
haven't gotten that
illegal
far
in those
yet.
states. And you said a little boy has a thing with a DNA. It depends what
No,
state.
that's not a trans person. That's a person that
That's
had
your
a
definition.
disease.
You have a definition. You're defining things. You're not a
Ken, you're not.
doctor.
Ken, you're not even. You're not. I'm trying to give you two separate thoughts and see if you can see the through line. I
Okay,
mean,
wait,
I
wait,
know
wait.
I'm only a high school graduate.
The number one question here is this: Do you can you hold the consideration that you possibly are wrong about something?
Yes, yes,
Okay, you sure?
I'm positive. I'm
Okay,
doing it right now.
okay. So if you're
By the
saying when you
way,
oh wait a
happy
second,
Christmas
stop it,
Eve.
stop talking. You can't, I think it's improper to make laws on the basis of unique phenomena of a small infinitesimal element of a collection. You are governing a whole country with 320 million people, and you don't have to enforce a code on 319 million people because there's one in that last group that wants to walk backwards. So you don't
Okay,
say,
okay,
well, we
Ken.
have to change all the traffic lights because this guy wants to walk backwards. You're governing a whole country. You have to look at the consensus of the culture. You can't say, my culture says you can have 16 wives and five
Okay,
husbands in a
okay, Ken. So
marriage.
you're
No,
telling
no,
us
no, Alex,
no,
let me
no, no, no,
finish.
because you have to we have to proceed from the
So the
logic
thing
here,
is,
which is
just hold it a minute. Let me finish and then you can go. So you have to consider what you're talking about an entire culture. If you go to other countries, you'll see that they have different standards and different customs. And those customs are solid. And it's, as law. And that whether or not you can't smoke in a building or you have to offer a person a cigarette if they ask for one, or you can walk backwards across the street. You don't have to open your eyes. You can do whatever you want. You cannot be married. You have to get married. You can have 47 kids and the government will take care of them. Or you're not allowed to have any kids unless the government gives you permission. If you want to take a look at the differences in cultures, take a look at the Saudi Arabia, France, Germany, Italy, everything. Russia, there's different cultures and different societies. And you're coming along and saying, well, I have a case, a straw dog case, and this person was not allowed to sneeze in the auditorium because they wanted to sneeze. They had an ailment. They had to sneeze. It's not just, it's not fair for that person to be suppressed and told not to sneeze. So that's the thing where you're trying to look at the individual and say the whole society has to be governed to handle the cases of that individual. That's not
no,
that's not
That's
it's not
functional.
about the
bullshit.
whole society.
That
It's
is
about
bullshit.
allowing the individual to dictate their. I mean, by your logic, then okay. So let's say somebody's a soldier. Does does the soldier have the right to refuse a vaccine that the U.S. government wants them to take?
Well,
That's
he
bodily
didn't
autonomy.
during Biden as during no, it's in the I think it's part of when you join the army, you give up that right. You have to accept all
Okay.
vaccines.
But then does the government and what if the government passes a law that says you got to get your COVID vaccine? You
Well,
did.
they did that. Biden did that, and that's what happened. And I think it's been
No, no,
canceled.
it didn't. It said you had all these restrictions, but they ultimately didn't force people
They
to,
enforced the
despite what people
vaccine.
said.
The vaccine was
They had
enforced.
if you want to, go here, here, and here, and that was actually the states, not the federal government doing that.
Okay,
Most
fine. But
cases.
those were Alex, were those things done for the benefit of one individual or the whole society?
Well, yeah, for the individual. But
No,
again, you
no,
can
it was
argue,
done for the benefit
but
of
you
the
can
whole
argue that again,
society.
allowing individuals to,
Now,
be
wait a second.
trans is, and
No, no,
the
slow
point is,
down. Slow down. You
the
just
point is, you
gave a
don't know the
great
history. You don't know the history either.
Alex, take a look at the COVID thing. The rights of an individual were overridden by the needs of the public. There was a consideration of contagion of the COVID-19. So
Yeah.
the government, the state government, the federal government said everybody has to get this inoculation. Otherwise, they can't do this and they can't do
No,
that.
that
And people can't gather.
it
And they
all comes
stopped
out of
business and
laws
they
for
told everybody to stay
quarantine.
home. So they override the rights of an individual to enforce a cultural phenomena for the whole society.
Well, you can quarantine rules. They precede, English common law,
No, no,
or
no.
well,
You're
they
going to
go
go
back to the
back and
beginning of
back.
English common law.
Alex, you're trying to
So
back
they
out.
go
You
back
put
before
yourself
Constitution.
you put yourself on my side by mistake.
No,
There's
no,
times
no.
when the society makes rules for the society, and the rights of an individual
Okay,
are,
but
are, are
then
not as
society.
important.
But we should let
Well, but
Daryl talk in a minute. But then society can decide again that allowing people to express that they're trans is also for the best of society,
well,
because we want
Well, they
more
can.
we
They
want more
can.
people to be happy. Essentially, we
They
want
can. They
and
can.
repressing them
Kenny,
is represses everybody,
So
because
they
it's a state.
can.
Because
yeah, but
And
Kenny,
some
if
people
somebody,
say, I don't
let
want my.
Jim is trying to say
Oh,
something.
sure. Go ahead, Jim.
if someone wants to remove his penis, great. They can do that. That's up to them. That's fine. Let them do that. They have the individual choice to do that. If they decide that they want to transform themselves in from a male to a female, from female to male, they have the right to do that. That is their right. That's an American right, individual right to do that. Now, do I think that's a good thing? Absolutely not. But they have the right to do that. Now, when you sit there and argue about a pandemic, when you're talking about the public health of people, it's not a cultural thing. It's a practical public health necessity. What, you're going to sit there and say, oh, I have smallpox. Well, I have the individual right to have smallpox, and I don't want anybody to treat me because it's my individual right to have smallpox. And, you're infringing on my freedom. Yet that smallpox can infect lots of other people. So, you're cherry picking your arguments here in terms of trying to make a point about this.
Do you
Uh,
agree with me? You agree with me that the group, the larger entity, sometimes overwhelms the rights of an individual.
this is a public health issue.
Yeah, public health issues is
The
one of
issue
the
of
areas.
trans yeah. Do I think personally that it's fair for a trans male to compete with all women? No, I don't. Okay,
What's wrong
personally,
with you?
I do not.
Why?
That's my opinion. That's my
Okay.
opinion. I just feel that's not fair.
Okay.
And
So is
but
it fair to have?
does that mean I want to repress these people? Absolutely not.
Okay.
So
Question, Jim. Does a right of a guy who says he's a girl to walk into a girl's locker room
yeah,
in a school and to drop his pants and start to
right.
play with his dick in front of the girls?
Well, first of all, you're giving extreme examples. I actually use unisex bathrooms all the time. And
Okay, so
I'm not thinking
congratulations.
about going in
I'm
and,
not
oh, let me
talking
go,
about your
let me go,
morality.
let me go in and
You're
check
talking
some
about
chick
Jim
out taking a
Dingman.
piss.
You're talking about what your
No,
opinion is.
no, because again, it does get into individual rights. It gets into a question of, you know, uh, the individual who decides to become trans and goes into a locker room, big deal. They decide, yeah, if you're going to sit there and masturbate in front of a bunch of women, well, that's unacceptable behavior. Okay. That does call for that person to be reprimanded because that person is infringing on other people who frankly don't want to see that person jerk off in front of them. But then the question of the person deciding to go into a girl's locker room because they consider themselves a female, if they're not masturbating, okay, well, that's an interesting problem. But really, it's a dilemma that really is trivial compared to other issues in our society. So it's good for the right wing to make a big deal about this because it sells well. People get all offended. It gets all these Christian maniacs inflamed. But that's their right to get inflamed. It's my right as an American to say individual rights about these kind of things, if they do not hurt somebody or actually infringe on somebody negatively, let them do what the hell they want. It's different with a public health issue completely. But Daryl wants to talk. Come on, Daryl.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Hold on. Oh man. Okay. There are so many things to say. Let me take the last one first because it's just easier for me. Whose science is valid? Does the person who's able to cure the disease get any say in the matter? The quote unquote vaccine for coronavirus 2 did what? What actually did that shot do? Can you tell me from a public health point of view what that shot did?
It provoked an immune response that gave you some immunity for it and reduced the severity if you got COVID. For most people,
That
anyway.
isn't
I
that
know
isn't
I
how
know you might
that isn't
disagree
how
with that, but
Jim.
that's
That
as
is
far
no,
as I
that's it.
understand it.
That's it. That's all it did. And if it failed, meaning that if for some reason that stimulus, that machinery, rather than being stimulated in your deltoid muscle to get the response there, and then die so that only the response went through the system, well, what if it failed? What if rather than having the spike protein produced in your deltoid, you got it produced in your heart? Oh, could that happen? Bottom line is three things on that vaccine, quote unquote. When I was a kid and you took a vaccine, the vaccine did either of two things. One, it kept you from getting the disease. And two, if you got it, let me see, and it kept you from spreading the disease. That was my understanding of what a vaccine is. Boosting my immune system is my business. I can take care of that without being subjected to messenger RNA, which may not end up where I want it to relay the message. So if you have a liver and all of a sudden you're producing spike proteins in your liver, how well is your liver going to function? That's the question with that. So, to my mind, unless you tell people that what you're calling an, uh, an antiviral or it's a virus, right? An antiviral that's supposed to, they came out, what, 7 months into it saying, oh, by the way, it only boosts your immune system. Well, it boosts your immune system if it works the way they say it works. In some people that weren't very lucky, they had that spike protein hovering in their brains or in their hearts or in their livers. Ain't it a great place for a spike protein and then you're waiting for an immune response? I mean, that's like injecting the virus into your head.
Wait,
Go ahead.
Daryl. Well, what do you have any data on like the percentage that the
Once
frequency of that
again, you
happening?
could, well,
Sorry.
put it this way. There will be cases out there eventually, but right now you have you could follow Dr. John Campbell, who's a nurse out of England. You could follow the frontline. What is it? Frontline corona virus
Look, with
people. Here,
as you
Korean crew.
you're I presume you and Jim are probably and Ken are probably too young, but you remember the original polio vaccine before they have like the one that was like the dead cells could give you polio in some small
Right,
percentage, but people
right,
still got it because
right.
it was still whatever
At the point in which
99%.
at the point in which polio was decreasing because sanitation was increasing. So there's a whole controversy around that. However, that's not my fight. The polio vaccine did what a vaccine that I understand is supposed to do. It kept you from getting the disease, right? Right?
I don't know if that's 100%, but well, 99.9%.
Okay. Whatever. Even 80%. It's still the purpose was to keep you from getting the disease. It wasn't about boosting your immune system. With
Yeah,
no
they gave
hope,
you propaganda of that. But the problem was that they were not clear, not that
they weren't clear, they lied. They told people that they weren't going to get the disease if they got this shot. That
well,
was the beginning.
as we know, Daryl, in most of the world, people just kept on working and going out because they could economically afford not to keep making a wage if they want to feed their families. So like 80% of the world, it's like Latin America, Africa, and Asia, large parts of
And what
Europe.
happened
That
to
that
that
was
whole
that was the
structure?
case.
What happened to that whole
Only a
structure?
few countries, really shut down for the
Once
whole
again, I'm
COVID.
not. I don't care whether you shut down or not. I thought it was a great deal because I'd never seen nobody on the streets in New
Yeah,
York.
yeah.
Nobody on the streets in New York. And it was great for the environment. Birds were
It
coming
was,
back.
yeah.
The
No, you
air
can
was
see
getting
it in
cleaner.
the air. Yeah,
So
they
okay, I'm
slowed
not
down
going
climate
there.
change. But
I'm not
Ken,
going there. I'm
Ken,
going to. If you tell me I'm
Daryl,
taking,
we can go in circles on this. And I wanted to do something holiday related, but also related to some of the stuff we've been doing, which is to
go ahead.
talk about
Listen,
the.
what do I
I know
know?
Ken would. Good. I found this guy, economist Barry. I forget what his last name is. He does the podcast Barry's Economics, and he's a really good one that just came out about the economics of a Christmas Carol and what it says about the
Oh, how much it
psychology of
would
rich
cost
people.
today?
That's great. And they're
Well,
well,
that's actually interesting because A Christmas Carol, as we know,
yeah,
as most of us know, was written in response by Dickens
yeah.
to the economic problems in England.
Right.
And
This guy's
Dickens,
not doing the usual
I realize that
interpretation.
that doesn't do that, but just to clarify, The Christmas Carol was actually looked on as an anti-capitalist screed when Charles
Yeah,
Dickens actually composed
yeah.
it. But I wanted to beat up on Kenny a little more tonight. So,
Okay, we can get to Kenny. I just want to.
but
Again,
maybe
Jim,
let's
don't do
it's
it,
not a long thing.
man.
It's just 12
what
minutes.
what
But
You
Daryl?
can't bring
it
him in from the cold if you keep beating him up.
Well,
Damn, don't Mike
he's
Tyson that
he
man.
gets it from his wife often enough. Jim, you got to lay off the
oh no,
guy.
I'm sure that Grace always tells me she avoids these arguments. Anyway, but
Or
Kenny
maybe
can
that's why
validate
Ken likes
that.
to pick.
Kenny
Maybe
can
that's why Ken
validate
likes to
that.
pick them with us. He can
Well,
get it
no,
out of
no, no.
himself.
Well, Kenny. Well, it's actually, Kenny. Kenny's. I just spent.
He's a good sport. I'll say
I
that.
spent 2.5 hours beating up on the Fox News feed today, so I was having fun doing that.
Yeah.
But it sharpens my brain to do this. But anyway, that's all right. We don't have that guy. Who was that guy who came in and was arguing with you for about an hour last? Curtis. We don't have Curtis tonight. That guy from Georgia, from Atlanta, Georgia. That was sort of funny. But I guess he's having fun on Christmas Eve rather than talk about politics. Um, anyway, yeah, the obviously the Epstein stuff is incredible. Every day it gets nuttier and nuttier, and it's going to be
Oh yeah.
interesting to watch.
Jim, what did you think about the was it the Larry Nasser email that I think most people think is
Yeah,
fake,
that's
but
pretty amusing.
the fact that they stupidly released it
Well,
when it's
that's the
like
whole
days
thing. I'm saying to
it was
myself,
said days after he died. I
well,
mean,
what
this
what
is
gets me is
not
I'm
that
saying to
can't
myself, I said, boy, did they waste a lot of money. They had 1,000 FBI agents
all right. Oh yeah, and
called
did you
for
hear?
this.
Judge Napolitano was saying, yeah, there's one tranche of it. Basically, like if you copy it into Word, you can get rid of the redaction. You can see the real thing. That's how how stupid the DOJ was in trying to censor this.
Well,
They actually put out, yeah, and you can apparently these guys were doing it, and like not all of it, but
well,
like one
well,
tranche of it. You can just like if you copy it into Word
yeah, but
or it's just crazy.
I wouldn't put it past them to just eliminate the document altogether. I mean, but
Yeah.
anyway, let's go to what you're going to do, Alex.
Can you what? Okay, I'll share that. He's a Brit, so well you'll hear from the accent. But again, it does a pretty good. Actually, again, part of the fun is actually I guess they have like
We
some
have
the
misunderstood
Charles
Christmas
Dickens
Carol
Museum.
for 180 years.
Is it 10 minutes or less?
We all think a Christmas Carol is a story about
12.
kindness, about
12.
redemption,
Okay. Make
about
sure you turn
becoming a better
the
person.
switches
Yeah.
But in
on.
reality,
Yeah,
it's a
you guys
story
are wait.
about hard.
You guys were hearing that, right?
Yeah. It's kind
Okay,
of fudgy.
let me
It's
just go
kind
back.
of fuzzy. Should be sharper.
Oh well, that's my computer. Switching
Go
over to a
ahead.
new one, so I'm hearing
In 80 years. We all think a Christmas Carol is a story about kindness, about redemption, about becoming a better person. But in reality, it's a story about hard economics.
Can you turn it up a little bit, Alex?
Okay, yeah. They use the Alistair.
So in the Christmas Carol, Dickens wasn't just telling a
some
moral
of the best
story.
clips from the
He was
different
diagnosing a
Scrooges too,
broken
which is good.
economic mindset. Because Christmas Carol is probably the earliest story about how wealth changes the way people think and see the world, and how it keeps them insulated from the consequences of the way they live. Because Scrooge isn't cruel because he hates people, he's cruel because he thinks he doesn't need them. He lives alone, he works alone, he keeps everything locked away, he mistakes insulation
This is the best
for
version.
strength.
All of us are endeavouring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. Why? Because it is at Christmas time that want is most keenly felt. It is enough for a man to understand his own business without interfering with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
That belief, I stand alone, therefore others should too, is the psychological engine of Scrooge's whole character. And modern psychology has a name for that: self-sufficiency bias, which is the more independent people feel, the less they notice other humans.
I can't pay you, sir. I'm not surprised. Not unless you give me more time. Did I ask you for more time to lend you the money? Oh, no, sir. Then why should you ask me for more time to pay it back? Look, I can't take my wife to a debtor's prison. They'll leave her behind. Why should she go to a debtor's prison anyway? She didn't borrow the £20, you did. Huh. What has your wife got to do with it? For that matter, what have I got to do with it? Good afternoon. But Mr. Scrooge, it's Christmas. Christmas has even less to do with it, my dear sir, than your wife has or I have. You'll still owe me £20 and you're not in a position to repay, but it's a bit of a heat wave and August bank holiday. Good afternoon.
In studies by Michael Browse, Paul Piff, and Dacha Kaltner, people
Can you turn it up a little bit, Alan?
shown subtle emotions, embarrassment, fear, concern. And they were asked to identify what that person was feeling. Consistently, people from lower social classes were better at reading emotions, while higher status participants were worse. Now, that's not because they were nastier, but it's because independence trains your attention away from other people. Because your survival doesn't feel like it relies on other people. Although in reality, obviously, we are all interdependent. And that's not because they're worse people. It's because wealth hides dependency. Scrooge genuinely believes that he is self-made. Millionaires and billionaires genuinely believe they are self-made. But crucially, in the experiment, that characteristic it wasn't fixed. Because when higher status participants were reminded of moments where they depended on people, depended on others, their empathy returned like that. They could read faces better, which is exactly why the ghosts, they don't argue with Scrooge. They run the experiment. They force Scrooge to witness dependency, vulnerability, and they remind Scrooge who he used to be, who he is.
I've forgotten how beautiful she was.
Hello. How he depends on others, how he needs others. Because empathy isn't something the rich lose, it's something they feel they stop needing. And like any other unused muscle, it quietly atrophies. The ghost shows Scrooge that dependency is not weakness, it's the starting basic condition of every human life. And so the myth of total self-reliance collapses when faced with the basic facts of life. And it's not just that. Scrooge is cruel because he blames people for their own poverty.
I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there, and many would rather die. If they would rather die, said Scrooge, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
But again, this isn't cruelty. It's faulty economics, created by something called just world bias, which is where, when people see suffering they can't fix, something really strange happens. They don't question the system, they explain it. That's just world bias. The belief that people end up where they deserve to be. So, a psychologist, Melvin Lerner, proved this in the 1960s and proved it clearly. He showed people, an innocent person receiving painful electric shocks. Yeah, right. But when observers felt that they could intervene and stop the shocks happening to this innocent person, they felt outraged. They were angry. But when they were told they couldn't intervene and had to sit powerless and watch this innocent person get hurt, something chilling happened. They began to believe that the victim must deserve it, not because they were cruel, but because it's more comforting, reassuring to think a victim deserves it than to think the world is chaotic and unfair. Dickens understood that instinctively. So the Ghost of Christmas Present, it basically does something precise. He removes that distance, that comfort. He forces Scrooge to meet the Cratchits.
A Merry Christmas to us.
A Merry Christmas all. And God bless us, everyone.
He forces Scrooge to meet the Cratchits, who are working hard, loving, trying their best, and yet still hugely suffering. Suffering they don't deserve. The Cratchits, if anything, are the proof that Scrooge needs, that virtue, it just doesn't guarantee reward. There is no fairness in this life. They are living proof that virtue does not guarantee reward. And that's the moment that the privileged Scrooge is forced to face the world as it is.
No say of despair. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my species will find him here. But if he is to die, then let him die, and decrease the surplus population.
A cruel, unfair world that does not reward goodness, but rewards wealth and power. So the interesting thing is that by the end of the second Ghost, Scrooge is wreck. He's learned his lesson. But the hard economics truths of his life choices, they have to be shown through. So enter the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Am I in the presence of the Ghost of Christmas yet to come? Spirit, I fear you more than any spectre I have yet met.
That forces Scrooge to face the consequence of his life and his choices, where his refusal to accept his reliance on other human beings, it has an effect, where his biases have an effect. A future where his emotional distance directly results in the deaths of innocent children. The Ghost of Christmas Future, it sees the world if nobody does anything, the hard consequences of inaction and of hoarded wealth. And in that future, Tiny Tim will die. Because Tiny Tim, he doesn't die because he deserves it. He dies because the system doesn't invest in him. Dickens wrote this story 180 years ago, and there were horses and carts in the street. And depressingly, it was relevant and true then. It's true also in the UK today, where the richest 1% of Britons, incredibly, hold more wealth from the bottom 43% of the country. Like what? And public health research is totally clear about this, that where wealth is concentrated, investments in health, housing, and children falls dramatically. So when vast fortunes are hoarded, wealth that could never be spent in 100 or even 1,000 lifetimes, it has consequences. Tiny Tim or any child today, they don't die because they deserve it. They die because the system and people don't invest in them. Because the ghost of Christmas yet to come, he's not showing what might happen, he's showing what will happen. He isn't a warning, he's a projection, whereas Dickens called it a ghost. Today, we call it hard economic data. Scrooge doesn't change because he becomes nicer. He changes because the stories protecting his wealth mindset collapse. And he sees the direct consequences of his actions and lifestyle.
Do we have enough food for the night?
It'll last through. At least there's one thing still free in this country.
Alex, can we take a break here?
Who are these people are?
There's going to be a test after this lesson.
I think it does illustrate again. So, it's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
But okay, I go, again, so you want to be Scrooge. Is that what you're telling us, kid?
No, of course not.
You're going to start saying bah humbug now. And
I spent a lot of time taking care. I don't even kill the flies. I make sure to open the window and shove them away so they fly and have a good life. I want to play this other thing. This is important about this Russian thing. There, it's all set up. So let me share this. This is important. And here it is. And it should be a better sound than we just heard there. So let's see what this comes out as across today. This is about 10 minutes, I think. No, it's only 3.5 minutes.
And nobody's talking. It's just
Not yet.
it's on a whatnot.
Russian forces have struck 2 major Ukrainian ports of the Black Sea, damaging 3 Turkish-owned civilian vessels and raising fresh international concern over maritime security in the region. Ukrainian officials say the attacks took place Friday at the ports of Chornomorsk and Odessa, key hubs for Ukraine's commercial shipping and food exports. A Ukrainian Navy spokesperson confirmed that 3 Turkish-owned ships were damaged, though details were initially limited. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky posted video of firefighters battling flames aboard what he described as a civilian vessel in Chornomorsk. He said the strike had no military purpose and accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilian life and normal economic activity. Zelensky said the attacks showed Moscow was not serious about diplomacy and urged the international community to maintain what he called a moral compass when judging responsibility for prolonging the war. The damaged vessel was later identified as the Cenk T, a Panama-flagged Turkish-owned ship. Its operator, Cenk Shipping, confirmed the attack occurred Friday afternoon. The company said there were no injuries among the crew and damage to the ship was limited. In a separate strike on Odessa port, Ukraine says a private company employee was injured and cargo handling equipment was damaged. Ukraine's deputy prime minister said Russia used drones and ballistic missiles, calling the attacks deliberate strikes on civilian logistics and commercial shipping. Ukraine's Black Sea ports are a vital economic lifeline for the country. Turkey confirmed the attack on Chornomorsk vessel and said no Turkish citizens were harmed. Ankara warned that the strikes underscore growing risks to maritime security and freedom of navigation in the region. Turkey says 4 Turkish civilian vessels have been hit in just 48 hours, including one attacked in international waters while carrying sunflower oil to Egypt. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan
that was attacked by the
urged calm
Ukrainians.
and proposed a limited ceasefire covering ports and energy infrastructure. Turkey has offered to mediate as tensions escalate. The strikes come after Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to cut Ukraine off from the sea, accusing Kyiv of targeting Russia's so-called shadow fleet. As the war enters its 4th year, the Black Sea is emerging as a dangerous new front, with global trade and regional stability increasingly at risk.
I mean, that's, again, that shows again
Okay,
how
so-
you report, because actually that's exactly what they did. They're attacking the Ukrainians first attacked the Russian shadow fleet, which again is, I mean, it supports the war in terms of, again, the Russians obviously make money from stuff they ship. And like I said, again, it's hilarious that they mentioned, it just shows how biased whatever this media group is, because again, the ship with sunflower oil that they mentioned getting attacked is a ship going from Russia to Turkey. So it's something it was a Russian, not Russian flag, but Russian owned ship essentially being attacked by the Ukrainians. So again, it's just shows just a ridiculous skewing of basically reality. But again, and I've been warning the guys about this because again, when we talked about, I don't know if it was on, if we did it on I think probably did it on one of the updates, Jim, way back. Again, because it was like last month, the Ukrainians started to attack Russian shipping with these underwater and surface drones. First in the Black Sea, again they attacked one off the coast of Africa. So I said, of course the Russians are going to, this also shows again, Russians have, as President Obama himself said back in, I think, around 2014-15, Russians have escalation dominance because Ukraine is right next to them. And if the Russians want, they basically can, they can seriously damage the port of Odessa, through which, again, most stuff goes into Ukraine. Again, so both civilian, military, and, things like that are dual use, like oil and fuel. So I mean, it just shows again, if things go, get pushed, Putin has, because again, Ukraine's right next to him, and Russia has, bigger force, more, and also more military industry. Unless you want to push things basically into a nuclear conflict, you can't, you can't match the Russians on the borders. Again, it's the same reason, it's always been dumb to, invade Russia, to fight them, up close like that. And it's never gone, it did it, Charles the 12th, again, to want to bring up some history here, Charles the 12th of Sweden tried it. And he got, it took Peter the Great a while, but Peter the Great wound up crushing Sweden. And so, so we're just seeing again, the Russians are retaliating essentially. And again, it shows, as I said, that the Russians are always going to have more force on their side, especially compared to the Ukraine. I mean, we can talk. The other thing is,
Alex,
I get a chance to talk with Jim last night.
Alex,
But,
how much
you guys know
land?
the Ukrainians are literally, again, NATO's literally running out of ammunition. Because
Okay.
we have one plant, like it's I forget where in the U.S., in Kentucky or something, that makes basically TNT. they're trying to build up a new one. And actually, oh, you'll like this, Daryl. It's going to be totally automated. So, like people are saying again, oh, military industry is going to put so many people to work. And actually, again, it's not even a U.S. corporation that's building it; it's a Turkish corporation. And basically, again, obviously they're going to employ some people to build it, but then it's going to be basically like a turnkey thing, like they're going to be like 5 guys running it, and you just push a button, and all these robots are going to put together you know, a round of 155 millimeter ammo, down an assembly line. It's going to be like, a small number of people to check on that. But yeah. And again, that's going to be in like 2027.
So Alex,
Yeah.
Alex, hold it a minute. How much land, how much territory should Ukraine yield to Russia to get a ceasefire and the
I mean,
end
they
of
should
the
make what deal
conflict?
they can now, because otherwise they're going to lose more and more. Because again, the Rush, contrary to what again they're feeding Trump again, the Russians obviously aren't, their losses are sufficiently low that they feel that they can keep on going for probably can keep on going for 5 years. And their economy is not going to collapse, barring some real big change, especially with again China, of course, backing them like
So
they
you're
do.
saying they should have the Donbass all the way
They
down to
should, well,
Crimea?
at least they probably going to have to, what they should have done is again they should have agreed to the Russians withdrawing in 2022 in exchange for not never joining NATO. They could have gotten a good deal then, but now again now both sides have paid a pretty hefty price, and of course it's like, well, if you were going to go to if the South was going to go to the Union in 1864 and be like, well, uh, we want our current borders, and you got to leave us alone. That of course, Lincoln or Sherman or Grant or whoever, they're like, well, no, we're gonna keep the war going until you're defeated. So I mean, at least here again,
Question.
there's a chance that
Question.
that Putin doesn't want to take it all, but if he has to, he will. If they keep
When?
pushing it again until they're
Where's the Russian Navy?
well, the
Where's
Russian the
Alex?
Black
Where's the
Sea
Russian
Fleet
Navy?
is
Why
on
does
is
why
at
does Ukraine even
Novorossiysk.
control Odessa?
Well, you don't need a navy. Again, it's you can
I
again you
guess
don't have to.
not, because
We're not
Ukraine
talking about
doesn't have
controlling it.
one.
We're not talking about controlling it, Daryl. We're talking about wrecking it, which again the Russians can do with drones and missiles, and just keep hit.
But what happened to the Navy that was there?
Well, they're still there. Actually, they're still participating in operations. They moved off basically the eastern part of the Black Sea coast. Yeah, because of and the Rush, as you should know, Daryl. Again,
Okay, Alex,
the
Alex,
Russians
Alex,
haven't done a
Alex,
big
Alex, Alex, Alex.
what?
Why is Russia playing with this? Why not end it?
Well, they don't. I think it's a few things.
And
Again,
how did the
they
Kenyan
feel like that they can that. I think. Well, one thing I think is they don't want. They actually don't. To some extent, they don't want. They don't want Ukraine to collapse quickly, because then they're worried again. Basically, at that point, again, NATO is going to directly intervene. So better basically to
They're
grab,
not ready.
slowly grab what they can, and
NATO
then
isn't ready yet. If the United States isn't playing, NATO ain't doing nothing.
Well, we
Because
don't
just
know
like
that
you said,
again.
they don't have the ammunition.
Yeah, but it's not about
Did you
ammunition
see did
again.
you see the
It's not about
drone?
ammunition. It's about if the French or the UK send troops, then you have a nuclear crisis.
Oh, stop with the nuclear. Jeez, everybody's crying about. If they were so bad, they would use them, right? Ain't nobody
Oh,
using them, including the Israelis, because they all have
yeah,
houses
it's an
and they got
argument.
lots of money and they want to be able to go places. If you pop off with a nuclear war, sort of ends everything, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know,
Doesn't it?
Daryl. It's look at all the trends.
Okay, so let's go
The
back to
the
the real
Russians the
deal.
Russians took more territory this past year than the year
How many
before.
centimeters?
Oh
You ain't
well,
talking
actually,
about rolling through getting 5 towns in a day. That's
oh
what I
well, they've been
remember
they've
from
been
World
getting
War
like what
II.
here. I'll give me a sec. I gotta pull up find this one slide in my PowerPoint, which shows again, what compares actually again, it's a very good compares the change on the Western Front in 1915-16 to the Russian gains this past year. Again, you see
this isn't
not
World War
Russia's
II,
got a
man.
lot more territory. I'll
This
find it.
isn't World War One either.
Yeah, but
get a grip here.
It's similar. It's a similar.
No,
it's similar enough, Daryl. It's an attritional war, just like, and again, a war
yes,
that
but it doesn't need
that
to
there's
be.
not. It's
It
as a
doesn't
former
need
military
to
guy,
be.
you should know again. Taking territory isn't necessarily.
You remember, I'm in
how
the
you
Air
win a
Force. We don't
war.
take territory. We just bomb.
Right. Sorry, but yeah, let me just find.
And don't particularly care
okay,
who the
I
bombs
got it.
land on.
I'll show you guys here. Here this is. I found this just.
Oh,
Yeah.
you don't get the point.
Here. So here's the compare. Well, I'll put it. Let's read it.
Alex, it doesn't matter. This war is supposed to progress. And this war is showing that it has not progressed. I mean, the RSF have done better than the Russians in that instance.
Took the RSF. Well, not the. How long the RSF's been fighting for? What, 4 or 5 years now, and they have.
No, they haven't.
I mean, look, it's how long did it take?
Okay, all right.
How long
did
it take Assad?
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with you about this.
It
All I'm saying
it took the jihadis 14 years to defeat Assad. At the final, and actually they got rolled back first, so that that proves nothing again.
Oh, and the Russians didn't have anything to do with that, right?
We got here. You can see again. How little. Look how little. Again, this is the same scale. How little terrain changed in terms of World War I on the Western Front. Again, compared to these nice big chunks the Russians have taken. And again, well, again, I was arguing with the guys. Frank and the rest of them don't want to listen. I don't. Maybe Jim was listening. At the rate they're going, the Russians are going to be in Zaporizhia, and they're going to have cleaned up the Donbass. So they're going to have met again what the original war goals are essentially.
Well,
and they're going to have some nice bargaining chips.
Yeah, but see, the problem with all this, Alex, the problem with all this is that my problem with this is that from the start, Putin invaded Ukraine, period. We can get into what occurred in 2014. I know we would disagree with that.
Yeah.
And then you have this situation right now with the peace.
2014.
Well, let me just
2014, Jim, please.
Well, that's another issue. But let me just keep on this one.
So everybody talks about 2014 without remembering Crimea.
Well, that's right. That's very true. And
thank you. That's it.
No, that's very true, Daryl. The whole little green men thing that occurred down there. But what is disturbing to me right now is this intersection with Trump's foreign policy, because it shows you, all the people who screamed about the Russia hoax. Well, what do we see right now? That he is trying to negotiate a peace treaty based on essentially letting Putin get what he wants politically in this situation, and he will benefit financially from it. And so, realpolitik is realpolitik. I understand that, but I do not see I personally do not see this as a good outcome, frankly. We've already disagreed with that. The practical thing is that I think that what Ivan said yesterday when we were talking about this, and I think you both agreed, and I think we all agreed, is that Putin has no interest in a political solution because he'll get a military solution. And it's obvious with how he's reacting to these overtures. So Putin is, what interest does he have? He wants a maximal objective achieved. Is that objectively in the interests of the United States? We can debate that because, of course, people in the United States, you have this anti-war reaction, which I totally understand, based on literally 60 to 70 years of built-up grievances and disillusionment, starting with the war in Vietnam. And then, of course, the forever wars and all that. And that, and that's the interesting thing about the MAGA movement when they get into this America First ideology. That is that they view, we can't have any imbalance. But then, of course, you get it contradicted with the kind of situation we're seeing in Venezuela. What does he say? Well, they stole the oil from us, so we have to go seize the oil. So that's the sort of problems I have with sort of a completely factoring out those kind of issues, defense of what Putin's doing. I mean, I don't see that as a good outcome for Ukraine. I don't see Putin as a good outcome for Russia. I never have. And but one cannot ignore objective facts. And there's no doubt that, they've been able to weather the storm economically. They've been able to avoid the sanction hit, etc. But is this a good outcome? I don't think so. And then I agree with Daryl on the question of nuclear war. Uh, we don't really know enough about that saber rattling during the past several years. And then you bring up the peace dangling that occurred in 2022. Well, we sort of know what that was. That was basically a surrender. And again, the question of what the internal politics are in Ukraine, important. They've got their fascist neo-Nazi elements, absolutely. Would I say the entire country is dominated by that? I don't think so. Politically, it's a broad coalition that battling for power in there. And again, we got the contradictions inside Ukraine with that number two getting ousted for corruption and embezzlement recently. So, it's a very volatile situation. How Europe's going to respond is a volatile situation. And what is the United States foreign policy doing? You had that speech by Vance at the Munich conference where he basically said, this gets back to what Kenny and I were screaming about an hour ago. The whole question of freedom of speech, because he got into this whole thing where what did freedom of speech be? He was directly attacking the fact that the laws in Germany restrict for understandable reasons since Hitler took power, a defense of Nazism, and that's what we're dealing with in Europe, at least in terms of Auf Deutschland. So there's all these contradictions in the left's, and I'm not trying to generalize about the left because there's all these vagaries in the left. I would not try to make some stereotypical generalization as I would talking about MAGA because MAGA has a lot of divisions in it. So, I hear what you're saying about this. I don't agree with you. But again, one cannot ignore objective military facts. I wanted, though, to talk about the battleships.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, yeah. Kenny, do you got the sharing on right now?
You can do it.
You should be able to do it, Jim.
All right. I found a wonderful image.
Did you hear about this? See this, Daryl?
Well, no, we're talking, I think Daryl's been following it. I mean, I just, that
ain't
whole.
following nothing, and you ain't inviting me to nothing. I ain't got no emails from you or nothing.
Okay, Jim.
Talking about,
you got to put Jim on the list, Jim.
Well, no, Daryl gets the emails. I sent
No, I didn't, or else I'd have been there.
Well, all right.
Last night.
Well, you're getting the emails when we're doing this. I think I sent you. I sent it into the Pacifica list. Well, anyway, so this is the class of ship that is being discussed by.
You're not sharing it yet.
I'm going to share it in a moment. Yeah, here we go. Now, I thought this was a brilliant cartoon here. This is a cartoon of the ship, the battleship, and like. One thing about the battleship is that I think they should have another class, or at least create a number two ship. But I felt they should have a whole class. It's called the Jeffrey Epstein class, and they should have an USS Jeffrey Epstein at least as the second ship launched. And what kind of weaponry should they have? Well, they should definitely have torpedoes that are. They should have a class of torpedoes or missiles in honor of Mr. Trump saying it's so big, it's so huge. And they should do stuff like that. They should invent anti-aircraft weapons that have multiple laser, abilities to sperm out, if you will.
No, it should. The stealth should be that the ship turns invisible, Jim. Remember when Trump thought that's what stealth did?
Well, that's another thing. But I do think there should be serious. What's interesting about this Jeffrey Epstein class and this whole thing is that I know somebody who builds ships in Norfolk, who is a Trump supporter, hardcore, great guy, basically spent his career in New York as a owner of a tugboat company, right? And he had three sons went to the Navy. Two went to Annapolis. One died. He was a NOAA guy. He died of cancer, left a couple of grandkids. He is super pissed off about this battleship thing because anybody who knows anything about naval warfare knows that this is complete ridiculous bullshit, particularly when he got up there and said it's the biggest battleship ever built and all that stuff. I mean, like I'm sick of this. Is just
Bigger than the Yamato.
yeah. Well, he said it's the biggest battleship,
Well,
because
that's
it's named
how he
after
thinks.
him. And come on. I mean, this is ridiculous nonsense. But anyway, that I thought that was a good rendition of the
Oh.
first class of
Yeah,
the.
reminds me.
This is
Jim,
supposed
you
to be
remember
serious?
This
there
is
was
very
this.
serious. He's actually launched.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the picture of the ship, Daryl.
No.
No, and that's not what
But
I'm saying. He wants to bring back battleships.
Oh no, he said that. Yeah, you missed that. No, he
it's
did. He
basically a
did.
replacement for the Aegis class destroyer or cruiser, whatever you want to characterize it. But he wants to bring. There's 31 of them they want to build, and so what's interesting about all this is that all we've been exposed to.
Are they gonna be drones or are they gonna be?
No. Well, they're
No,
going to
no.
be.
He wants a gun
Yeah,
battleship.
he wants a gun battleship. But what amazes me is I'm saying to myself, like, he obviously
Yeah,
missed certain episodes of Victory at Sea when he was watching as a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
He missed the part when the repulsor of the Prince of Wales gets sunk in December 1941. He missed the Bismarck getting sunk. He missed battleships fighting it out in Guadalcanal. I mean, what a stupid ass thing to do. It just amazes me.
And
I
the
mean,
reason that every other navy except us got rid of them after
well,
World War
it's
II,
not to say,
we eventually got rid of them. I know. And
yeah, but
like when Reagan brought them back, it was basically like a huge cost.
yeah, but see, the problem with this is that, he's going to get people pushing back on this,
Yeah.
and he's going to have another expansion of naval ships that counter this replacement of the Aegis class ships, because they're bitching and screaming about how the Chinese Navy is, and it's true, the Chinese Navy is growing with great rapidity.
Yeah.
Not their deep sea ocean going fleet has indeed increased, but the question is, you idiots, we want to have détente and some peaceful relationship with China. What the hell do we want to be locked in an arms race with them? I mean, that against
Oh.
a society has
We're
a
the
far
U.S.
superior shipbuilding capacity than we do.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
what the hell?
we're in the position of the USSR.
Well, yeah,
Ridiculous.
exactly. Well, yeah, and then imagine if we actually start shooting each other. I
Yeah.
mean, how are you going to replace those ships if they're sunk? And that's where you
Yeah, I
get
know.
the question of
I mean,
nuclear
these
war.
guys, they really think they can like decouple from China, so our economies aren't intertwined, which I don't. Again, I
Well,
don't
our
see how
economies
that's.
are intertwined. It's
Yeah,
absolutely insane.
yeah.
This is where
Forget the economy, the debt.
that's it. That's it. They
Well,
invest all
the
their money in
Japanese have
people.
more of our debt now, I think, than the Chinese.
Um,
So that's changed.
but
No, it's China first, Japanese second,
I
European,
mean,
London
they've been
third.
selling our debt off. I mean, they reduced it because again,
Yeah, but they don't want to crash the
they know we
economy
could
because they
steal
want to
their
make the
money
money
if
back.
we
That
want.
was part of the deal to get them out of poverty.
all right, now here's the actual ship. Here's the SS Trump. All right, so as you can see, it's sort of amusing. It's appearing in relationship to the Statue of Liberty. I guess they blank out the part where it says "Bring everybody here, bring your wretched, bring your
Yeah.
poor." I mean, that part. I guess they'll probably scrap.
What do they say the tonnage of this will be?
I think it's about 35,000 tons, and it's the USS Defiant.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, the whole
I
thing
mean,
is.
there is a way to do something like that again, which is basically the old Arsenal ship, but I don't
Well,
imagine
the
that
Arsenal
big
ship
enough.
got that class got
Oh, a rail gun,
torpedoed.
well, like that's worked.
No,
We tried that with the Zumwalt, and
the
it
arsenal.
turned
Well,
out to be a
that's it. No,
disaster.
that did not work. The arsenal
Yeah,
ship did not work. So anyway, so here's the actual characteristics of it. It's going to be more than 35,000 tons, so double the size of the Zumwalt class destroyers. Again, the dumb bastard doesn't know the actual. I mean, no one briefed him. He wouldn't care because it's named after
okay,
him.
lasers.
Well, Iowa class battleships, what they rate about 58,000 tons. So, this is like, moronic. You have morons in charge of defense policy.
And who? they're going to build this at Newport News. That's what they're.
Well, this is, look, I'm creating all these jobs. Well, it's true. He will be creating a lot of jobs. But then jobs in the military industrial complex are a little more problematic than
Well, it's
just,
probably smarter to build like twice the number of 15,000 ton. Because I don't think making them
How
that
many
much
drones do
bigger
you think it would
makes
take
that
to
much.
take it out?
well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah,
I
a
mean,
drone swarm.
that
And
is
how
an
much does the
interesting
ship
question.
cost?
Well,
Someone should be on the floor. Someone should be on the floor of the Congress right now,
raising hell about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, again,
saying
Al.
what are they thinking about?
Well, that's true. That is indeed true. And
Wait.
And that's why I
And
said you
Jim,
need to
go
interview
back up.
all those
Is it
general.
here's the ship
is it
itself.
is it a nuclear powered or like a gas turbine?
Got to be nuclear powered.
I would think it's nuclear powered, but that's a good question.
Is
But
it in the spec?
that I'm sure if we dig, we could find it. I mean, I'd be
And if
interested
it's
to.
128 VLS,
Doesn't anybody have?
that's not much. That's not much more than a Chinese Type 55, which again they can probably turn out 3 of them to every one of these.
But see, they define it as a battleship.
Yeah.
Let's look at this. The Navy
Yeah.
multiple size.
I think from the tonnage, yeah.
Yeah, and they define it as a battleship, 30,000 tons.
That's just to say.
Now, in World War II, that would have been equivalent to a cruiser, maybe a battle cruiser.
Yeah.
Not necessarily not an Iowa class battleship, because those I do know weigh much more than 30,000 tons.
It'll be fun to see.
But that's not
next
the point.
Year to put this into the Harpoon. Larry Bond.
10 to 15 billion bucks.
Oh,
all right, which that probably will go.
Maybe that's as much as Ford class costs.
They're going to go build it in Pascagoula and at Bath, Maine.
Okay, so you got $1 million.
Well, the contractors are going to love
$15 million drone.
Yeah,
and they take that machine out.
Right.
Yeah,
That
I'm more interested in rather than the tonnage and even the guns. I'm interested in the electronics.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean,
it says SPY 6 radar and something about countermeasure systems.
They have a whole lot of them. Because you can swarm them with a whole bunch of little ones.
Well, that's an interesting question because
and make life really difficult.
Well, see that is an interesting question because I know that they
or even a larger number of destroyers and cruisers on the other side with a bunch of hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, but that's true. They have hypersonics. But
and again, Al talks about I don't know if he about where the Navy screwed this up, like they did it with the Ford, like try to put on all these new technologies, and at the same time, and then you wind up with a class that has all these problems.
Well, that always happens.
Or the LCS.
That is a characteristic of the development of weapons in the U.S. Post-war situation. They put in.
We used to.
Alex, let me finish my comment. Alex,
we used to do it. We used to do it right. I mean, we made some.
No, we never. We always had these problems.
The Perry class and the
Yeah, but the problem is that this kind of problem always F-111 problem. Stuff. Is always characteristic because they want to have the perfect weapon system, and that's where they get all screwed up. But yeah, it's a very interesting question, Daryl, in terms of the issue of swarming these. And at this point, I cannot say I've looked at it only cursorily, but it is a subject to look at in further depth, no doubt about it. Where's Michael? He split.
Yeah,
he keeps getting knocked off. I don't know. He said he's had problems getting on.
But he was on.
He was on. I think he's.
He was on. He was on.
I think he keeps getting knocked off somehow. Mike's got to get a new computer or tablet or whatever.
Well, he's doing it on his cell phone, I think. Which of course,
cell phone. Well, then maybe yeah.
Yeah, forget about
it. Because Mike's. Mike doesn't know how. He says he doesn't know how I can say it. We say at the die. Mike doesn't know. Mike has issues with technology because whenever he gets a new phone, he has to have like Felix and Joe fix it up for him. So it's So he's porting over, his numbers and so on.
Right. Well, that when you don't have a millennial or a Gen Z to exploit to show you how to do things, that's a
I
little
can
bit
do my
problem.
own phone.
Well,
Figure
yeah, but
that
I mean,
out.
there
I mean,
are
it's Apple. It's an
yeah.
iPhone,
Well,
so it's
trust me,
easy.
it helps when you get
Yeah,
millennials
no,
who can
I'm sure
exploit.
you use Jordan.
That's you damn right I do.
I
But
got a hole in this phone I don't want to pay any money to close it, but I get attacked regularly. With junk ads,
Sure.
and it takes me a couple of times before it stabilizes out, and then it'll stay in the browser, whatever. But all of a sudden, like we could be on the discussion right now, and I can get attacked, and I know that there's a way to do it, but I don't want to pay $4 a month or whatever it is to get the appropriate software. There was a time. However, okay, so now let's get back to the real deal. If, and I really want to see this weapon used at least once, if you gave Ukraine a squadron of red dragons, what do you think, Alex? Would Putin get serious?
No, I mean,
They're only it's
they
only
just
the
showed
C-130.
they just showed a drone. I forget, it was almost shooting down like not an F-16, I think a Mirage 2000. So, and
Wow.
a big C-130 is going to be a pretty big damn target. Plus, I don't
Yeah.
know, are we gonna provide them with the late, if we provide them with like the latest, AMRAAM, then that means we're like, okay, we're giving it over to the Russians to, reverse engineer and probably come up with a better version from. I mean,
Oh, and
and
did you see the pictures of the fat?
they already got longer range missiles than us. They got the R-37M, which is supposed to have a 400-kilometer range, and the Chinese have like the PL-17 that's shooting down Rafales. So
It is?
yeah,
well,
and they're also, I mean, there's I forget what its destination is, but there's one that's a 300-kilometer range anti-AWACS missile that will
Wow.
home on radar or on jamming. So
Well, the piece that I'm looking at is, did you see the drone factory in Russia yesterday?
I haven't seen that. You should send it.
I think it was 60 Minutes. What was
Oh, it was
yesterday?
60 Minutes. Okay.
No,
Well,
I don't
again,
think.
they're being very smart there because they're talking with the Indians about giving them drone tech for them to produce, build them for the war. So exchange the tech, but then you build us, so now we can attack Ukraine with 2,000 drones every day instead of 500.
Yeah, they were out producing the Ukrainians something like 5-1, but
Yeah.
the factory was really impressive. The drones weren't all that large either.
No, it's this like Shahid type thing, Quran or what. And they've got, no,
Hey,
they've improved them. They have AI now versions now, and with jet engines. So,
hey,
obviously they've improved the range.
and he's building, and
Not
President
not
Trump
just
thinks
them,
that
the
a
Iraq
battleship is a good idea.
the Israelis are scared because the Iranians just, and the Israelis admit this, they've like, improved their missiles to the point where they have like 2,000-kilometer range once. So basically they could hide them in, eastern Iran where they, the IAF can't reach, and shoot them all the way to Israel. And basically, you're gonna have to fly, the Israeli Air Force, unless the Pakistanis are gonna let them fly from their bases. Which I don't think is gonna happen. They're not gonna be able to reach them in the next go round.
the problem with that argument is that Israel has adopted a strategy after October 7th. They're not going to wait around anymore. They're going to act proactively in an attack.
Yeah.
So they will persuade the United States. That's an interesting question. Under Trump, they can persuade him to intervene with the Air Force. It'd be interesting. Well, how would they able to pull that off if, let's say, you had AOC as president of the United States? That won't happen. And so that's an interesting problem for the Israelis because
Well, then you can
that's where
basically sink
that's just,
the global economy, Jim, because at that point the Iranians
but
will have no reason not to basically wreck the entire Gulf, take out every oil platform,
no,
and unload all their
well,
lesser range.
yeah, but that's
Close
what
the
happened.
Hormuz Straits, and basically
All
during
right,
Great Depression too.
all right, well, yeah, but first of all, they did indeed restrain themselves in their response to what happened during that 12-day war. They could have done that until they disrupted the commerce in the Gulf. They didn't do that. I mean, if they wanted to do that, they weren't given a chance to do that because the IDF achieved air supremacy early on. And so that raises the question of how much longer are we going to be dependent on the situation in the Middle East to be in this uneasy situation based purely on the Israeli military strength? Because that creates all sorts of other tensions that can explode in our face. And
To what Frank says on that, I say, well, if Hamas is so defeated, then why does nobody want to be part of the stabilization force, and why aren't the Israelis going in to finish the job? No,
well, they
it's because they didn't defeat Hamas, because Hamas still is strong and exists and is gonna inflict heavy losses if
well
they
they
go back in.
all right. Well,
Or
first,
if heavy, or they've said basically any foreign power who enters, Gaza is going to be a target for them. So,
well
whether it's
that
us or the Turks or whoever, or
well
Egypt, or so again,
well
that's
well,
why, again, what do those guys know that we don't? Again, why aren't, if Hamas and Iran and all the rest are so defeated, the resistance is so defeated, why don't they want it? It's not
well
like they're
well
not subservient enough to the U.S. It's because, again, well, they first off, again, they know that, yeah, they would suffer heavy loss. Again, their armies aren't going to do any better than the IDF. Yeah, probably going to do worse because they're not
yeah,
as well
but
trained. And also again, it resists their regime survival. Because again, well, what are the people of Egypt going to do if Egyptian soldiers are shooting at Palestinians?
well
Or
the
the
Egyptian
Jordanians,
the
the Jordan
Egyptian
that has like half their population is
Jordan
Palestinian.
has absented itself from that, and so
Yeah.
has
Well,
Egypt.
that's my
And
point.
and then well the point is that the only power that can go in and fight them is the IDF, and then the
Yeah.
question is that going to happen again or not?
Yeah.
In all the problematics domestically, but more important internationally, to do that. And that's where you get into this dubious situation we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly, and this is what's interesting, that these Turkish ships were attacked. What Kenny dug that thing up.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question because the Turks supposedly were to be the commanders of the international security force that's
Right.
deployed along the yellow line there. And so I don't know what the hell's up with that at this point. Uh, because again,
Right.
uh,
And
they,
Jim, the IDF, they keep shrinking the yellow line in
oh,
violation
well, yeah,
of the
but
ceasefire.
see, I don't buy
There
the,
is no ceasefire.
well,
Well,
that's
that
right.
too.
Well, that's it too. The ceasefire is that's a sort of dubious
Well,
notion.
only it's a ceasefire for one side, because again,
Well, no, well, there's other,
The Israelis never cease firing.
yeah,
They haven't ceased in Lebanon. I mean,
well,
they've
no,
ceased in Iran actually, which I think
well,
actually shows that they are deterred by Iran, because
no, they're not
otherwise they
deterred.
would
They're
still
not.
be bombing Iran.
Well, they have other issues going on. I remember they pulled off some, whatever one thinks about it, they pulled off some pretty sophisticated
Yeah,
covert
but those
operations
are
against Iran.
and those can't be
That is
repeated because
ongoing, but
all
it
those
doesn't make
networks
sense.
got
Look,
blown
it
up by
doesn't make sense. The problem I have sometimes with the sort of uncritical pro-Palestinian approach is that even look at Rashid. Now, Rashid would be the first to say, you don't underestimate the Israelis, in
Yeah,
terms of
no,
what
I
they're
agree.
capable of doing. And that's why watching Electronic Intifada was so amusing to me because, what are they doing? They're valorizing squad and platoon level tactics
Yeah,
all the time, which is only thing that Hamas could do.
yeah,
Period. Then what else are they going to do? They're not going to come above ground and
no,
let the Israeli conventional forces have an opportunity to kick the shit out of them? No, they're not going to do that. So the question right now is what will happen in the next, I don't know if Trump's going to be able to assemble any kind of serious, quote, security force there because those guys do not want to do. I agree with you. They don't
Right.
want to get caught up in a situation.
And
They have to
that's
fight
what Rashid said when I asked him in one of the last lectures.
But
That he didn't think this whole thing was good. And this is I think it was right after the ceasefire. He
that
didn't
was the
think this
last
thing had
one.
any chance of working because, well, first off, he didn't think the Palestinians in any way would agree to it, and without that he pointed out again that historically the British have had tried something similar with collaborators again,
Yeah,
in the
but
30s, and it didn't work.
right. Well, Rashid,
They
look,
still fought
Rashid,
back.
well. The problem with that argument is Rashid would know that indeed the suppression of the Palestinian movement that occurs in 1939, in terms of the issue of making it easier for political Zionism to essentially seize control in Palestine after World War II, was definitely reinforced. Now, the question is what politically will be the outcome inside Gaza? Because again, I don't think that, there are people who are not necessarily sympathizers with Hamas. Now, what they do agree with Hamas is the issue of resisting Israel. And that you see in all the opinion polls taken both in Gaza and the West Bank. And again, there's a guerrilla war ongoing in the West Bank. Now, the Israelis, unfortunately, from their point of view, it's not like you have this liberal enlightenment that was done during the labor regime, because at least the labor regime decided that it was in their national interest to allow the Palestinians to work in Israel so that they could economically pacify them. And so within a year of the Israelis occupying the West Bank, within 2 years, the income levels of Palestinians in the West Bank in some cases were increasing, and their public services were increasing as better effectiveness. The Israelis don't give a shit about that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I mean that's one of the weaknesses of the Netanyahu coalition. So, let's see what's going to happen in this situation. I agree, it's highly problematic that this entire peace process will go forward in any way sensible, except who's going to go fight.
Have any respect for the Israelis. Now, I was just going to listen to this
I
other
wanna-
report from Middle East, Mideast
Cohen, I want to throw a
medical
question.
monitor about that it's actually, again, they have dozens of cases of the Israelis literally running over people with tanks and bulldozers.
Yeah. Okay.
to kill them.
Fuck the Jews. Let me throw a question in here. What's a scenario where Hamas wins and takes over Israel, expels all the Jews from Israel, and takes over the whole territory from Jordan to the
one vote.
Can I have what you're smoking?
Yeah, and let's say that Hamas
Can I have
takes
what
over.
you're smoking?
How long would Hamas control Israel before they were at war with one of the other Arab states? For the purpose of territory.
These are Ken, these are the same exact arguments that got made about the ANC in South Africa. You can't
How are they
negotiate with
doing?
those
How are they
terrorists.
doing? How are they doing?
Nelson Mandela will never
Not
make peace
good.
with the whites. And look
How are
what
they
happened
doing?
there.
How are they doing
So you
in
don't
South
know.
America?
In fact, again, it's usually the oppressed people who are.
No, wait a second. It's very easy to sit here and talk about how fucked up Israel is. I'm saying, what's the plan that says Hamas wins? When we looked at
There
World
is no
War II, we
plan.
said the Axis or the Allies, and we say, well, if the Axis wins,
Well, the plan,
this
the plan
is what
is
happens to Europe. So, what is the plan for Hamas to win, and what?
it's not for Hamas to win. It's for the Palestinian people to win.
No, it's Hamas.
With a binational. No, Ken, you don't get to say this is not Hamas is a part of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people, if you want to get there again, and say maybe it's the Palestinian people versus the Israeli people. In which case, again, it should be it should be a binational state with one man, one vote.
So they hold on to the Jews.
Protection for whoever's the minority.
But it's run by Hamas.
No, it wouldn't necessarily be run by whoever, again, Jews, Arabs, and Christians in those boundaries.
But you get rid of the Jewish government. Well, you can't leave them in.
This is Jewish. You're saying as we say, Jewish supremacy versus Arab
You've
supremacy.
convinced me. You've
But it's
convinced me
not.
that you've convinced me that the Jewish or government wants to destroy Hamas and the Palestinians. So that doesn't work. There can't be a Jewish government because it will destroy the
Not the
Palestinians.
current
Okay,
government.
No,
so we
they,
get rid of the government. Hamas wins the war because Israel is surrounded or
well,
something happens.
Kenny,
What
Mm,
happens?
you
What's
gotta
the winning
explain that.
situation?
Kenny, the Hamas
That
is
ain't
not going to beat Israel. Forget about
Yeah.
that.
They're
They're
going to
not going
beat
to
him.
beat. They're not going to beat them.
But what if they did?
Well,
It's impossible.
that's even more ridiculous to argue because I would not
Unless somebody's going to give them
I would
tanks.
not trust Hamas to be. I mean, Dave. Look, I've had lots of discussions with people over the past 40 years of my life about this question, and I would not trust a bunch of those guys to have any kind of you know, undesired to repeat to Israelis what they feel has been inflicted on them. They would simply drive them into the sea. And I've listened to them say that shit privately to me many times.
Right.
So there's that is not a solution. And Israeli have nuclear weapons. Why do you have 100? They supposedly have 100 plus nuclear weapons. They would
Yeah.
never ever allow anything like that to happen. Period. I mean,
Okay, great. So
so,
then
so,
that's
so
not part. That's not a
it's not
solution.
that's not a
So
viable
stop
solution.
talking about attacking
Well, why?
Israel and work out a way where Israel becomes saner and not and start saying, "Oh, they're crazy and they're
Well,
doing this wrong and they're evil and they're
well,
genocide and everything."
you don't hear that from me, do you? I don't think you
Yeah,
do. No, you don't. Bullshit. I don't
you're,
say that.
you don't
I,
consider that it's
no,
genocide.
I consider it
Jim, he
partly
does
what
hear it
they're
from
doing.
you because he hears it from you. He's telling you he hears it from you. Whether you're
Yeah.
saying it or not doesn't
Yeah.
matter. That's
Well,
why I'm saying you need to approach him differently so that he can hear what you say rather than what he thinks you're saying.
no,
Okay.
he's just being provocative. That's all.
I'm
Jesus,
trying
Okay.
to say it's like
just
you're
breaking
going off.
balls.
You're going off on Israel like you should liberate Palestine. And you just heard what Jim
Should
said.
end
No,
the
you're
occupation.
no. Look, the question of liberating Palestine, the idea that Alex talks about a state where everybody's equal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. That would be the ideal solution. Is it a practical political solution to think about right now? Probably
No.
not, because you'd have to have like if you compare it to South Africa. South Africa, first of all, I don't see a leader in the Palestinian movement of the kind of vision that Nelson Mandela had. I mean, really, I don't. I don't see someone like that because Mandela was someone who, due to his experience, what he was in Robbins Island for what 30 years or something like that. I mean, when did he? Yeah, well, at least 20
Yeah.
years.
He
So
was in prison
yeah,
60, 62,
yeah,
61,
the whole after Sharpeville, before
and was
Sharpeville.
released, what, 90, 91, something like
No,
that.
89, 90. They were starting to negotiate with him because the South Africans were losing politically, but
Yeah.
it's a different situation because the black majority, I mean, that occurs in a completely different international context. Now, people are trying to say there are similarities and dissimilarities. The question for the Israel, South Africa had on its borders uh, actual countries they were at war with, like Mozambique,
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, Angola,
Angola.
and they were fighting wars in those countries. Now, they were fighting wars that were involving their military. And so, yeah, you could sort of see there's an analogy with Lebanon, but the issue of Lebanon is such a different situation than any comparison with what occurred in the struggles against apartheid, because the only I guess the closest country maybe could be Angola or certainly not Jordan, because Jordan essentially was trying to walk the thin line. And what did Jordan do in 1969? They repressed the Palestinians. They were on the verge of having that's when the whole movement to overthrow King Hussein occurred. And what did they do? They basically suppressed them. So Jordan's a different situation. And then on their border with Saudi Arabia hasn't really threatened them. I mean, and now you have MBS in there, and MBS basically wants to establish a peace agreement with them. He just feels that they have to compromise on the issue of Palestinian nationalism. Egypt, Egypt's the one country. Once you have the Camp David Accords, you have Syria. Now look at Syria. Syria was under the Assad family at the time of the Camp David Accords. They're gone. There now is a regime in there. Who knows where they're at, but basically, they're a regime that was put into power partly by Turkey, partly by Saudi Arabia, and
By the United States.
who knows what our involvement is. But nevertheless, that government in power, we're trying to, cultivate. Although the Israelis acting like, remember the Israelis when the whole government was collapsing, they took the IDF and basically, went out and destroyed the Air Force, destroyed, hit
Navy.
supply depots, the Navy. They went. So the Israelis, for I can understand their point of view. They don't trust these guys. But
Why did the Russians abandon the Syrians?
the Russians, they were basically expulsed. I mean, what they were confronted with a situation where they would have had to intervene the same way they did at the time when they saved Assad. And
You're right. I'm saying
they're,
why did
they're
they
They're stuck
why
in,
did
they're
they
stuck in Ukraine.
yeah, exactly. The Ukraine,
and apparently, well, according to some sources, they basically offered to, help reform the Syrian army so that
Well,
it wouldn't collapse like it
it's
did.
too late.
And but Assad didn't want it, didn't want to reorganize it on,
Yeah, but you also had contending powers. You had Iran very much involved in supporting
Yeah.
Assad, and then remember how fast they collapsed.
Yeah.
I mean that shit was over in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. It was unbelievable what happened there. So
Afghanistan.
yeah, well,
Well, that's
Afghanistan,
because their soldiers aren't
Afghanistan
getting
took a
paid.
little longer because what really started to weaken in the situation in Afghanistan was the Trump peace process, and then when they decided not to intervene with air power in the spring, that really started to tilt the balance to the Taliban because the U.S. Air Force wasn't going to sit there and intervene. And then I believe they actually started to call off money. I mean, Biden actually acted to them in a way worse than we did with the Arbans in
Yeah.
1974, 75.
Yeah.
So, and then you have this situation. So again, there's differences between the two, but again, there's no Palestinian leader of the vision and the international appeal of someone like Nelson Mandela. Forget it. There's nobody. And Nelson Mandela, uh, what did he do when he came into power? He tried to reconcile the differences between white South Africans and black South Africans in a way that would require I mean, that would be frankly the way to go.
Yeah.
To sit there and really try to, have a figure of like that, like trying to reconcile everybody. Because there's 9 million Israelis, and there's well, I think the amounts of Palestinians versus Israelis is more or less equal if you add up all the, West Bank and the and Gaza. But the situation right now is like, who the hell wants to go in there and control 2 million people and sit there and with a guerrilla movement that's resuscitating itself? That's a really impossible scenario for any group of any country or set of countries to get involved with. They're going to have to be involved in urban counterinsurgency with Hamas. That's I don't think they want to do that. So Hamas, on the other
Not
hand,
this weekend.
no, right, not this weekend, but Hamas, on the other hand, they have there's a popular support among the Palestinians to resist, and the PLO, whether you like it or not, that's what the polling says, and so how do you handle that? And I don't know. There has to be like some like
So what's
imaginary
happening on the
leap of
West
faith.
Bank?
What?
What's happening on the West Bank?
There's constant. Well, first of all, the West Bank is getting worse in terms of settler
Yeah.
colonialism. Frankly,
They
I mean,
want to do that to what they did to Gaza.
well, yeah,
And then they're going to proceed to expel, the
well, see,
Palestinians
that's
in 48 proper. It's, we know, everybody can see what's,
yeah, but that's where you get into this question of the tolerance of that in the Arab world among, let's say, the Arab street. That's where there's a real counter on that, because that's the kind of stuff that inflames the passions of most Arabs. And even in Saudi Arabia is telling Israel, look, like there's a limit to how much we're going to tolerate on this bullshit because our own population is not with this stuff. I mean, sure, they might be tired you always hear about, but it's the royal family in Saudi Arabia, the mass of people. I mean, and so I remember Saudi Arabia. I listened to this guy do a briefing on Saudi Arabia. Every Saudi Arabian has to carry an app on their cell phones that is given full access by the state. Now imagine the United States pulled some shit like that.
Yeah.
So in other words,
it's probably
are heavily
it's
surveilled.
probably what, like the Israeli software, their
Oh, that could very well be, but whatever it is, they have, and then MBS has 10 independent polling entities constantly taking public opinion among the Saudi population all the time. And Hitler did too. I mean, the Gestapo took polls all the time. There's some of the most invaluable historical resources, the polling that the Gestapo did.
He still doesn't have a backup plan, basically, to when they run out of oil. Or
That's what they're in the middle of doing right now. I mean, that's why you see these.
I mean, the whole NEOM, whatever, all that stuff hasn't panned out.
Well, no, well. They're certainly MBS is very much committed to that, and that's what they're doing. But again, we'll see what happens. But anyway, it's a volatile situation. But you also have a very sophisticated leader in MBS. MBS is part Bedouin. His mother was a Bedouin princess, so unlike a lot of the members of the royal family, he's not educated abroad.
Really?
He goes to school in Saudi Arabia, and he studies Islamic law. So what's interesting about MBS is he knows how to manipulate all the religious guys. So the head imam of Saudi Arabia, this guy was witnessing this in real time. He comes in there and tells the Sultan, he tells MBS that he doesn't want to have movie theaters in Saudi Arabia because MBS says, "No, we want movie theaters. We want this." So they have a big meeting, and then they get to a very critical point where he goes, "Well, who ultimately in the Quran arbitrates problems on religion? The Sultan." So the guy walks the guy to the car, the caliph. So the guy walks him to the car, says, "I'm in favor of the movie theaters. We're going to bring him in." He walks the guy to car, totally respecting him, totally deferring to him, and basically sends him off on his way. And so what's interesting about MBS is he is somebody who understands the internal dynamics of Saudi politics in a way that makes it interesting because his other members of the royal family, some of these guys are like completely Americanized or completely Englishified. They have no real simpatico for the masses of people in the Saudi body politic. MBS thinks he does, and he totally is opposed to democracy. He openly says that. The book's going to come out later this year, but it's sort of amazing to listen to this guy talk about this stuff. It really was. But it's a complicated.
Jim, this was up at Columbia.
Yeah, this is up at Columbia. Yeah,
It's part of Gary's.
Yeah, it's part of Gary's seminar. It's a very complicated situation, but anyway, we'll see.
So in the Middle
Does he have
East,
enough money to pull off the sports thing?
He sure does. And that's another thing. He wants to, look at that ridiculous amount of money he paid for supposedly, was it a Leonardo da Vinci painting? So they actually want to have tourism come to Saudi Arabia, and his idea of having he wants to have
that was the painting. Gail's friend.
Whatever it was,
praised, right? Yeah,
it was something.
The Mooney or whatever it is.
Right, but anyway,
the one that they discovered.
Well, they thought it was bullshit. Some people think it's bullshit, but anyway,
right.
And then we talked about Khashoggi. I don't want to get into that. That's another time. But anyway, so you got this situation going on. I mean, the Middle East is quite complicated, and the average Arab, the average Joe Schmo on the street, they're not down with the Israelis killing Arabs. So that's where you have this, and then look at the change in public opinion internationally about the way people, and look at what's going on in the MAGA movement. I mean, this whole thing attacking Ben Shapiro, the first day of Turning Point USA, launches an attack on all these people he feels are anti-Semites, including Fuentes.
Oh yeah,
and it's really interesting. It's really and then of course,
Jim, did you see the part with the the kid who was asking about the USS Liberty.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I was like,
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah.
or he's well, he's
But
you
but
know,
but
losing a lot
but
of that.
Ken, do you know what the Liberty is?
yeah,
Yeah,
he
sure.
knows what the Liberty
Uh,
is.
It
Anyway,
was
so that,
destroyed by Israel, the U.S.
oh
ship
well, anyway, yeah,
attacked.
but that is something. The whole the we'll see. This is all we're living through this amazing historical time. It really is.
But I mean, wait a second. Just in general speaking, it sounds like some form of the state of Israel has to exist there in harmony with other Arab states. It can't just get the Jews out of there and move them to New Zealand.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
that I
But
totally
they can't get, Greater Israel isn't going to work either.
see
It's
that's
6 or 7 million Jews aren't going to rule over,
No, greater
500 million
Israel,
Arabs. That's just not going to happen.
greater Israel. I mean, Israel from Jordan to the sea is one country. If they allowed the Palestinians to have equal
Right.
citizenship.
Oh, again, then they would be
but they're not
be a
going to do
Jewish
it. It's no
minority.
longer a Jewish state. It's no
Yeah.
longer a Jewish state. I mean, that's all. That's all.
There you go, a Jewish state,
No
right?
longer a Jewish state because the whole issue of
Yeah.
Zionism
But then,
it doesn't include these people as equal citizens. I mean,
Right.
admittedly, Israel's a complicated society. There's no doubt that there's Israelis who feel the same way I do, but they're in the minority.
yeah.
And the thing is that when you talk to
And
Israelis,
even Jim, I
admit,
know if you would, Rashid's talking about, even the liberal Zionist, if you look at, what all the Israeli prime ministers in the 60s and 70s, all of them, that includes Rabin, essentially privately admitted that they were never going to allow a Palestinian state because they knew that would be a challenge to Israel. So
well,
they were never willing again to, to make peace. Again, they're never willing. Well, they're never even willing to
well,
basically to restrain or to, dissolve basically the settlement.
I get it, Alex. The thing is, you can't just keep dumping on the Jews. They have to be
It's
there.
not the again. Ken. You're being anti-Semitic because you're conflating Israel and Jews, which is again the.
That's not no. You're saying okay. You're saying anybody who Zionists don't have a right to be there.
Any more right than the Arabs do? No.
That's
No,
right.
none of us have any right to be on any particular plot of land in the earth.
Oh, really?
I don't believe Greeks have
Then I
right to
guess
Greece or
Russia
anything.
can walk into Ukraine. Then Ukraine has no right to be there.
Or the Russians. In that sense, no. Like Jim, I'm a cosmopolitan. I don't. Again, like Jim, I would like to see a lot of the borders just dissolved. And again, I don't see it happening.
we ain't there yet. We're not.
Again,
We're not
reading.
land yet.
I was
Imagine there's no
watching
religion.
I was watching been rewatching Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's
forget.
pretty good. That's my favorite of the whole series anyway.
Oh, Deep Space
Because
Nine.
they have some very nice, and actually again, you could argue that there's similarities between the Bajorans in that plot and the Cardassians and between Israel and Palestine. You definitely read that into that. But again, I think at the time they were thinking, of course, more of
Star Trek always had with the Klingons. They were going at it.
Yeah,
the Klingons,
and Romulans.
And the Romulans.
You definitely, the Romulans are kind of like the Russians, and though they're always being sneaky and using underhand.
The major thing is this: this is a planet. We're on the same planet. Things are the way they are, not the way you want them to be, or they should be. You can postulate that all you want.
That's good, Ken, because again, you've been asking me for a while. Again, actually, this was, did you go see? It's probably playing in your area. The Seymour Hersh documentary that Jim and I have seen. Cover Up. The one Poitras did just recently about him.
No.
You should go see it. It's good. Again,
which cover up? Cover up
because they kind of ask him a similar question, like, well, why do you care about My Lai and Abu Ghraib?
No.
Why do you want to expose your government?
No. You got to do more than expose it. You got to solve it. You can't just go,
Yeah.
I got you.
Well, his point again, it's my point too, and I hope to be Jim and Daryl's point, and even your point, that we got to be better. The point is, we got to be better.
No,
I don't want to
think so.
settle. I don't want to settle for us being the because again, especially the way that our economy is in decline. We're going to be one of those shithole countries Trump keeps declaiming about. Certainly we know many parts of the country are like that. Or there again, when the UN goes there and they find things like ringworm that are only supposed to, exist in the worst countries in the world, but they're in Louisiana or somewhere like that, or or North Dakota, because our healthcare system
if
and
you
our
take
poverty
almost any
is so bad.
individual, if you take almost any individual and pull off all their clothes, you're going to find birthmarks, moles, and sores and infections. A body is a combination of about 400 different systems. You got the veins, you got this, you got the biology in your stomach, the gut. It's a big accumulation, a coordination of things. It runs without even asking your permission.
We can all work to make it better or make it worse.
Yeah, but the major
and
cause.
we should be trying to make it. And I think again, we did. I think
make
the
it
country
better,
did.
make it better, make it better.
We did.
Right.
I don't know, Ken. Did you participate in the civil rights movement? You're old enough. Were you involved in that or in the anti-war movement?
Yes, I did. I mostly
yeah.
the anti-war movement.
So why did you do that? Why do you just care about you and not who cares about?
One of the major motivations was Julie, and another one was I can't remember her name, but she was from Baltimore. It's part of being involved with things.
But you could have got into the army to pick up girls too.
Yeah, I know. I could have. No, the Navy, but I didn't.
You could have become a right winger to do that, or join a church to get some or some nice Catholic girl to settle down.
So when you look at a person's body, it's complex and it has flaws. Not everybody is built the same.
Yeah.
People are different, and you change.
We should be trying to make.
And you can't make everybody.
You've been asking why I.
You can't make everybody come up to your standard of dress, and your haircut, and your hygiene. Not everybody's going to be the same as you. It's going to be differences. So you just have to be tolerant of other people.
I am tolerant.
You got to be.
But I also want to make things better.
You got to be
I think I have ideas about.
Well, you want to define what better is. That's the problem. Other people.
There are certain standards like having less poverty is a good thing.
No,
people having less people dying. I mean, unless again you're going to go with your Malthusian argument again.
Look, people would say
again, it's a problem. It's a problem that we're not having enough kids. So you seem to be of two minds on that one.
No, it's a situation that what's happening is I'm prejudiced. I prefer the Western civilization to most of the other civilizations. I appreciate the Asian civilizations, but it depends. But the Western civilization, which I'm not a big scholar, but starting from Greece, or even before that, in Iraq, Mesopotamian. But from that, and it blossomed, and I like it. I like what it developed.
But Kenny,
yeah.
See, Alex, one thing that perhaps is different in terms of how people respond to everything in the 60s was, look, Kenny got involved in the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
I had friends who got involved in the Church of Scientology, and I would ask them many times why they do this. And, they gave me all sorts of different explanations, but Kenny was, other people were getting involved in exploring other types of spirituality and other types of religion that were contrary to what he just said about Western civilization and Western religion. And people can understand that any way they want. But that was all throughout the 60s that was going on. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people who got involved in those alternative religious experiences or spirituality, sometimes they were involved in politics, many times they were not, or their involvement in that spirituality was a reaction to their disillusionment and their alienation from the contemporary politics that they were experiencing as Americans at the time. And
Yeah.
again, that I'm not, I'm not trying to explain your path to that, Kenny. I just know other friends of mine who got involved in the Church of Scientology, and I'd had long explanations and discussions with them about that. Uh, and so the question of Western civilization, it's very funny you bring that up because I remember friends of mine who were involved in those things, they were rejecting Western civilization or some idea about it because that was what attracted them to these kind of forms of religion. And look at the popularity, as Kenny knows, because he's in Los Angeles. When they put that guy, guy Watts on the air at KPFK?
Alan Watts. Yeah.
Yeah, he was popular because he popularized Buddhism
Right.
to people. And,
And then Lao Tse, not just Buddhism.
Lao Tse,
Taoism,
I'm glad he brought that up. Lao Tse was quite popular. Everybody was into the I Ching.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting thing. Now, I was sitting there trying to, I was a complete rationalist. I was indeed very much imbued with Western civilization. I wanted to go to Yale to study classics.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
did,
my
Jim?
objective was. And so,
Did you get
I
there?
wanted to understand. I wanted to study under Eric Havelock, who was a classicist, a Greek classicist.
Yeah.
Bernard Knox. There was all these guys at Yale.
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll diverted me. But but again, I respect the fact that that was a reality of the '60s, that people were questioning this, and frankly, what we've been involved with culturally as Americans ever since was, in part, a counter-revolution to all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And look here, Jim,
at the time, and to now, we've been constantly involved in a counter-reaction to that.
Counter reaction to Western society.
We're a counter reaction to those
the 60s.
people who got involved with counterculture.
To the 60s?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Because people
A reactionary movement.
a complete reaction to it. I'm saying counter reaction. I'm not saying pejoratively reactionary, although some of the course it indeed is. But nevertheless, it was a complete counter reaction to it, and I myself was not somebody who felt that, like, I know friends of mine who went to communes. I know friends of mine who took that path. It was a path I came to be more tolerant about because for a while I felt like, this is a bunch of escapist bullshit. What kind of crap is this?
Yeah.
You're becoming imbued with, going out to a commune, or a case of the Scientologists. I would sit there and say, well, what, you guys really think that humanity comes from Thetans? But, I mean, come on. And but nevertheless, I got more tolerant about that because I realized that people are responding to this alienating kind of situation. That's how I understood it. And I'll never forget this one woman I know. She went to England to study film. She comes back. I went to high school with her. She comes back and she's a member of some cult that worships Satan. I said to myself, how the fuck did that happen, man? How the fuck did that happen? And it was so perplexing to me because, and then I said to her, well, she was, and she was someone who was, like, where's your sort of core? Now, the core to me was, I wasn't brave enough to go down to goddamn the South and sit there and get my ass kicked like those other guys, where I respected them because my attitude towards those white racist Southerners was give them lead. All right. That's my attitude. My attitude was that we fought the Civil War. I naively thought that we had solved all those problems. And as a young person, I discovered, well, that ain't the case. So, and then if somebody went down and had somebody come up to them and threaten them with a weapon and all that stuff, well, my attitude was, you know what? Here's lead, motherfucker. And so that part of what happened in the 60s, I learned from people who were nonviolent that, I really had to grapple with that because, I sort of felt like that's a hell of an exploration for somebody to go through. And and in terms of the resistance of the state in our society, I always felt that nonviolence, mass nonviolence, is the best approach because people who engage. I mean, the American state is so powerful that anybody who thinks that they can launch a guerrilla war against the United States got their head up their ass. They really do. Um, and unfortunately, it's been proven again and again and again. And look at what happened with this guy who did the shooting in Brown. They essentially caught this guy within what, a week. And so
Oh,
people
well, he
think,
just went and killed himself. So
oh yeah, but but somebody,
Yeah.
but then you can always have these kind of out of the blue kind of crazy situations that don't fit any pattern, and then you'll have some guy go kill a bunch of people, innocents, for whatever reason they decide to do this. But uh and the problem, of course, with the time we're in is that you got a lot of people who actually talk about using violence with each other, and certainly in the Trump movement there's that tendency. And then you got these guys that what they arrested four people out in Los Angeles, didn't they, for quote the Turtle Land Liberation Front or something like that.
Oh.
Four guys were arrested because they're going to bomb a
Oh
target.
yeah.
And this is exactly the kind of bullshit they're looking for. And the people involved with Pacifica, again, what I laugh about is it shows me how insignificant Pacifica is because everybody's fearful that they're going to target Pacifica. They haven't done it yet.
Mm.
They haven't done it. You don't see
So
Trump.
I have a theory about that with the government and Pacifica,
What's your
which
theory?
is it's like a flame. It draws like a magnet
Oh,
all of the
moss.
radicals from the left mostly. And
Mm.
so then the CIA and FBI and NSA, hey, we got all the different, and not only that, they get on the air and they tell you what they're doing and why they think and who's there. And we're in there, we've hacked into the place, so we got everybody's name and number and the whole thing. So if they get rid of it, they'd have to go chasing these people all around town.
Well,
It's a,
yeah,
that's to me is that's
yeah,
like
that makes sense actually. That
right.
makes
It's sort of like remember you on 42nd Street when they used to have the peep shows and all of the sleazy stuff,
Hmm.
and then Disney came in and bought 42nd Street and cleaned it out. So
Right.
where did all these guys go now? How do I find a pimp? I got to go to Queens or the Bronx or something. They used to be on 42nd Street and I could buy drugs and everything, but they blew them away. So that's why I think the government will not eliminate the Pacifica stations because there's nobody out there comparable to the Pacifica stations in terms of radical radio. Nobody. It still goes on and on and
Yeah.
on. In fact, it's sort of like, oh, there's a show that's on. It was like, Law and Disorder, that kind of a thing.
Although,
That's
Oh
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
name of the show.
Well, that was RFK Jr. was on that all the time, right?
Whatever, whoever's
Back
going
in
to
the
be.
day.
I'm not talking
He
about
was, yeah,
moderate
no, he
people.
was with Mike, the Greek guy who's a lawyer. He's a Mike, not Pantaleano, something like that. He's
And you got a few whack.
he's a big litigation, not civil rights, liability litigation against corporations. He's won a number of good cases against.
Well, you got the guy, the what's his name with Common Citizens, Common United Citizens
Common
United or
Dream.
whatever. I always forget his name. What is
Ralph
his name? Ralph Nader, right? He's the Pinto, the whole thing.
Well,
And he's a good
Ralph
show, and
actually
he's
he got a
not
lot.
that radical. He's
He
anti-government.
accomplished a lot in
Yeah,
the
he's very
People
competent.
accomplishing a
I mean,
lot.
he actually literally probably saved millions of lives with all the
Maybe,
different
yeah,
legislation he got,
yeah.
in terms
And
of
people
safety
stand,
for cars and so on.
he's very American. Like don't
Well,
let these
I mean,
criminals get away
yeah,
with it.
yeah. I mean, the family is from Lebanon, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like Oz.
Remember his
Muslim.
I think it's his grandniece. It was one of the people who died in the Ethiopia, the Boeing when they had the big Boeing 767 that was. I remember his grandniece died in one of them.
Yeah.
But she was in that flying. She was flying on the Ethiopian.
So many
jet that
people are
crashed.
motivated by personal history. It's amazing. Why
Well,
you doing
this
it?
is
There was a
long
woman
gone.
who established Mothers Against Drunk Driving because her daughter died or the drunk guy driving.
Yeah. Well,
Then that's when I got it. That when it hit me, then I took responsibility. Personally,
people
I
get
think that I found that to be a big fault because the rule, no good deed goes unpunished. And everybody betrayal happens from somebody you really trust, a really close person. Otherwise, it's not a
Geez,
betrayal.
geez, Ken, you're quite the
If
cynic.
somebody sells you a car and they charge you too much, well, he's a salesman. It's a game. But when your mother or your son or your brother or your sister, and they say like, "Well, I want the money from this inheritance," and you get betrayed, well, because they're close. Your partner cheats on you. That's betrayal. So that's the way. Those elements will never be removed, no matter how much you want to make the world better. There will always be Putins and Trumps and Yakovs
Yeah,
and
but
this guy
I
and
mean,
that guy and
yeah, there's always
AOCs and Mandelas and Gandhis. There's a world that's composed of
not.
various. It's like a symphony, and it doesn't
We're
always
not.
play. It
We're
doesn't
not. We're
always
not
play
under.
music.
We're not. We're not in hereditary monarchies anymore, Ken. Where
We're
it's a
not what?
crapshoot. It's a crapshoot about the genetics of the future king or queen.
Well, I'm
We
saying that
we're
now this
supposed to
hasn't
elect
come
these
up.
people, and so
I'm
actually, again, the fact that we elected Trump is actually a sign that things are not good in this
the
country.
electoral system in this country is really for shit.
Oh yeah, no, well,
You got to
you
do. You
know,
got to be in. I was in the
yeah.
gut for that for about 2 or 3 years, and voting integrity and the systems
Look,
used for
it
counting
could be,
votes.
we could be
It's a
worse.
lot of shit. It's a
We
lot
could
of
be
shit.
we were like Honduras, with just this last election is basically apparently a complete fraud.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
they're
So
not
they
even
get
sure
that.
who won essentially
That's
because
right.
they stopped counting the votes. And
You
even
know.
again with the supposed actual vote count, it's like it's within like 1,000 or something, and
Well, I
they haven't finished it.
well
Oh,
There
the
are no
guy.
I
votes.
don't know if everybody here knows this, but everybody here listening to this, the four of us, and even Mike, we're going to die. So you got
Yeah,
X, maybe you got 30 years or 10 years or
yeah,
40 years or 5 years, or you get hit by a bus and it's over for this
yeah. But we
lifetime.
should.
Whatever happens
I
afterwards,
think we
that's
should
Yeah, well,
try
that's
history.
and
why it's
make
fun
it
to break your
better.
balls.
Yeah, so right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
shit.
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we do, Ken.
Yeah, that's right. And
Yeah,
don't
no.
don't try to worry about making the
Look,
world better. Making the
I don't
world
bitch about
better.
my
Well, I
personal.
do worry about making the world better. I mean, I do
Really?
think that. Hell yeah. I don't. Do I walk around moaning all the time that I haven't made the world better
No,
each day? Hell no. But do I think that's a good goal? Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Well, okay, fine. Enjoy
You
it.
know? Yeah.
Who for? For make the world better for who?
For
The un
humanity, for everybody,
for
yeah.
the whole
everybody.
world.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
For
Oh,
the majority at
Oh,
least.
that's what I forgot this. I got to tell you this. I want
yeah.
this on record. At least you three guys would know I said this.
Well,
There's a fertility
you're gonna
problem.
denounce Trump right now? Go
No,
on.
no, fertility problems all over the Western world,
Oh,
and
oh,
including
Yeah.
China and Japan and so
yeah.
forth.
All right. So what are you gonna say?
So if I've been in China, they can solve it easily. They start cloning people.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would.
That's the answer.
But that doesn't.
Yep.
There's a lot of problems before. There are a lot of things to do before they can
I'm sure they're already
perfect that.
doing it. I'm sure they're already
Cloning
doing
people?
it. Clone, yeah. Test tube babies
Uh,
and raise them in a
no.
public school and government school and make them train them for whatever you
Well,
need.
that's been a science fiction thing,
Well,
but
for that matter,
No,
we
I
should
we're not
have the
any close to
Stepford
that.
wives. What the hell, you know?
but they don't have any restraint or moral considerations.
Hmm.
You know. Oh,
Not
what do you
true.
mean it's not right? Only God
Not
can make
true.
children. Fuck that shit. They'll just clone people. They're working on that to Japan and China are making robots that will replace people to take care of the
Yeah.
older people and all of that. So why wouldn't they clone people? And make them just the way you want. White, black, purple, green, anything you want. And perfect and educated and they'll do it. I think they're already doing it.
Well, Well, I think
And
we should all, well,
and it solves the problem.
just
It
go
solves the
see,
problem.
what is it? The new, Ray Fiennes movie, The Coral is supposed to be good. I was
But
gonna see if Gail wanted to go see it, Jim.
but
But she
cloning
was
people.
asking me, what movies. I haven't seen it. With it's about a choral society in World War I England. Again, the Times gave it a very good review. And,
Okay, so Ken told you that the Chinese are going to start cloning people, and that's how they're going to
maybe
stop.
they will, but again,
That's
I
going
think
to stop their.
I think there's a lot of technological hoops they have to
All
jump
right.
through
Well,
for that.
It's an economical problem, not a scientific problem.
on that
I
note,
mean, I
I'm
know can they
I'm
even?
gonna
I
go
don't think they can
watch.
even clone. They really clone crops yet. So
All
They
right.
they
On that
clone
that's
note,
much
animals.
simpler. Okay.
I'm gonna go watch A Christmas Carol. So you guys take it easy.
Which
Merry
version?
Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Which version?
Merry
Ken?
Christmas,
George
Jake
C.
Jim.
Scott. The winner is George C. Scott.
I don't know. Well, George C. Scott's pretty good, but I like the original one.
Yeah, the
Me
Alistair
too.
Sim. That's the best one.
Alistair
Unfortunately,
Sim.
unfortunately, this year I didn't organize a read of it because it's actually a lot of fun to
Oh,
read. But anyway, it's always
yeah.
always a lot of fun to read. Hamming it up. But anyway, I've been.
All
Where are
right.
you going to watch it?
I'm gonna. I
At
have it.
home,
I
I
have it
guess.
on. I have this big, huge TV screen, so I can sit there and zone out on that. I've been having. I have to do something tomorrow, but I'm in the middle of figuring that out right now. I just made a big cranberry sauce.
Oh, you did.
Oh, you're getting ready with the meals. Okay,
No,
great.
no, I got to help somebody tomorrow with something. So
Okay, that's it. We're going.
see
Good
you guys.
night.
Bye
All
bye.
right, Ken.
It's been
Night.
interesting. I don't know why Mike left, but that's it. Bye bye,
I know
everybody.
you probably couldn't get on. You always
Yeah, I
claim you
Jesus is
said.
can't
in
get
the
on.
tube.
Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
I'm. Wait a minute, Daryl. Thanks
Yeah.
for sending me that video.
Yeah.
I
And
thought it
Merry
was
Christmas
I was
to
very
Happy Holidays to
interesting,
both you guys.
and I
Oh,
Brian
wanted to.
Stevens,
Ken,
right?
do you celebrate Hanukkah or what?
Well, Grace likes to celebrate everything, including
Okay.
June, any holiday there is. June 15th,
You
Juneteenth,
got
or whatever
you got
it's
any
called.
oil left?
Anything at all. There's an Iranian something.
Oh, it's a Muslim. It's what it
No,
is.
no, Iranian, not a
Oh.
Muslim.
Oh, there's a Zoroastrian, I think.
Yeah, Zoroastrian,
Celebration.
any kind of a thing, or
Well,
swap meets.
it's Parsi technically.
We used to go to the gay pride parade all the time,
Oh
but we
yeah.
stopped going. Yeah, it's a big thing. It's
Well, it's
40,000
L.A.,
people.
right?
No, it's West Hollywood. The whole West
Okay. Well,
Hollywood is
yeah.
gay. It's a gay city. It's right.
Remember, you're a Satan.
Oh, the Thetans. Thetans don't make things. You're a Thetan.
I
All
said
right,
you're a
Ken.
Satan.
Happy holidays. I'm gonna.
We're
And
all
Satans do
Thetans.
make things through their bodies.
Yeah, but you can also actually create things.
That's
Look,
right. You can use your mind when
yeah,
you
no.
when you
I think just in the English language, there's certain words which don't have physical manifestations, like courage, fear. Well, fear maybe, but courage, fear you could say is hormonal and so forth from threats. But things like courage, consideration, curiosity, amazement, being in awe, hate. These are things which aren't, well, maybe hate could be biological, but there's things that are associated with a being. You're a being, you're a person. My example is if you wake up tomorrow and you look in the window, in the mirror, and instead of seeing Daryl, you see uh, AOC. Say, what the hell is going on here? But you would be there seeing that it's not Daryl.
mm-hmm.
That's you. That's you are a
An
Thetan.
excellent explanation of trans.
Trans, well, yeah, the Thetan doesn't agree with the body.
No, the mind doesn't agree with the body.
Yeah, the mind is another step in between the
But
beingness.
you are a Satan. You have a mind and you have a body.
For
And
a
usually
period of, you have a mind for a very long period. You have the body for a short period.
only because we abuse it.
No, well, yeah, maybe 120 years, whatever. But I mean, you know what I think is one of the most parochial example of reincarnation? I watch it on YouTube. Say, precocious children, 3 years old, 5 years old,
Hmm.
playing Bach. They're just sitting down and say, how do they even get up to the chair, to the keys? How do they get where they got little fingers? How do they play all this stuff? And they're like 3 years old or 6 years old, and the parents say, well, as soon as he could walk, he went over to the piano and started playing. He doesn't read the notes or anything, he just started playing. What do
There you go.
and I couldn't learn that shit. I mean, it's amazing the amount of years you'd have to put in to get to that level of skill. And they come with it right like that because they have it from past experiences, previous existence.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All
And
right.
therefore, analytically at least, it's most likely leave it, at the end of this, you're going to do something else. You still are, and you're just going to step into another one, another body, or you'll hang out as a cloud, or you'll decide to be a tree, or you'll go to Mars or something different. I don't
That's what
think
Satans do. They
that's
grab
the
new
thing.
bodies.
You know what they do, and this is a principle in Scientology. Yes, they are. The reason is because it's very Thetan doesn't have any substance, so it's just let's say a concept or an idea. So you have to have a body in order to play the game and have an adventure. You're not
Right.
going to pick up, to be romantic or play sports or ski, things like that. You
Can't
know,
do it without a body.
that's right. You can't do it without a body. So it's very tempting. You get sucked in and you play the game. And some people come back to help everybody others, to help other people. But that's Scientology. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. Here's a core thing in Scientology. The Thetan, which I think you have an idea about from what you're saying, has two
You have an
abilities.
idea about it. You're a
You you
spirit.
you, you understand it, right? A spirit has two abilities, two skills. He can postulate and perceive.
Right.
So that's
That's
it. So you can
that's what
put
you use the
something
mind
there,
for.
you can put something there, or you can perceive something. And that's the two major core activities. From that, everything follows. Anger, pride, all of those things, and maybe space. You know, but there's parts of Scientology that are metaphysical. You go, you agree or don't agree. It's not what it's described in the press, and it's got a lot of associated with a lot of social crimes. But it's workable. That's why people stay with it or practice it. Workable concepts and workable skills, and it's not prayer or just a study. It's actual uh, procedures. Like, can you remember riding a horse?
Yeah.
Okay, can you remember an earlier time you rode a horse?
Okay.
Where was that?
Kentucky.
Okay, and what were you wearing?
Checkered shirt, blue
That
jeans,
and the weather was
sunny,
okay.
warm.
Can recall an earlier time you even saw a horse or rode a horse earlier?
No.
Try again. Saw a horse. Maybe you saw a horse somewhere. Anything of a horse.
Well, the one I gave you was 4 years old. Come on, man.
Hey, okay, good enough. All
Break
right, so
time.
okay, so that's the kind of process, and that might go very early.
Right, and that way you make the association until the needle swings down. I mean, well, it's steady.
Loosens until no, the needle, what's called floating, which gives an
Right,
indication of a mental release,
right.
a barrier thing.
They're
Yeah,
looking.
that's right.
By the way, they're looking for auditors out there.
Who's it? The church?
Yep,
Oh
I've been
yeah.
getting I've been getting a whole lot of postcards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do Scientology, you can get the books and you'll get the most benefit from just reading them. And they're simple books and the
The way that they're
scales.
doing it, the way that they're doing it now is even better. And
Huh?
now that they've cleaned it up,
What?
when's the last time? When's the last time you were in Scientology? Was
Well,
it
the
before
last time
2008?
we got expelled in about 2001.
Okay, 2008 was the big time, golden age. They found out that the books had been butchered and that you could word clear all year and never figure out what's going on
That's just a
because
it's a sinister thing they did to make everybody buy a no set of books.
okay,
That's absolutely all it was.
okay.
They said these books has too many errors in them because of blah 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 blah, and you need to buy a new set. That's what they did. And the new set,
I, listen, I can only go by
yeah,
what
yeah,
the
that's what they
corrections
say.
were.
That's what they say. I know.
And what when because I remember trying to do some of the books earlier, like in the
Oh,
70s, and
oh,
it wasn't happening for me. So I just since I have a challenge with reading anyway, I just said, "Oh, forget this.
yeah.
We're not doing this."
Well, it's
Wow,
nice to know that you got some exposure and you accept or reject. It doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, back when he did Dianetic,
Yeah,
um, compared to what they were offering on the psychological front, this stuff was hot stuff.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now there are faster and more effective ways of getting the I'm trying to think of the right
The gains.
technology. No, well, no, as a participant in the game,
Yeah.
you have the mind. See, I haven't read in a while, so and now that you bring it up, I've got $10,000 worth of books in a place that I don't have access to. Woo! Anyway, um, anyway, there are better ways through even neurolinguistic programming to accomplish what it would take using Scientology a longer period of time for a lot less money.
Oh, yeah, possibly. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know. I
the
don't
way
know.
that they have, have you seen? You should send away for an extension course or go. Have you ever been on the television channel?
The television channel?
Yeah, Scientology TV.
Oh, no.
Check it out sometime.
Okay.
You
I will.
know, I mean, my point here is that unless people understand that they are other than their bodies,
Right.
you got an uphill slog
You
because
got
the
it.
limit.
That's right. That's right. Because they'll manifest and defend a principle that they came on, some kind of a thing, a principle
Right.
like always
Hmm.
make money with other people's money, or never give a sucker an even break, or whatever principle, or Jesus or Catholicism. They'll hold on to this. And and I'm not diminishing any of the teachings of that are associated with Christianity. I find that very, very good. But I mean, they'll hold
Except
on to
nobody
it.
follows them.
Yeah, right. But they'll say, well, the book says, and this and that. Some Scientologists do that too. They don't really grasp it, but this is funny. I'll tell you this because I was in it, for many, many years
Hmm.
and professional, working at it. And there was a tape where Ron Hubbard says, because you listen to these tapes, we call it the wall of tapes,
Right.
and listen to the tapes. And there's a tape, which I don't know where it is, but I heard it. And he says, well, the final barrier that you have to break and become free of is Scientology. So he's
Right.
saying, says,
Because
after you do all the Scientology, you got to get rid of it. You got to release yourself from following all that.
exactly because that's the framework to
Right.
get
That's
you to
that's
the
right.
point to be at cause. It's
That's
like
right.
it's like if you're learning how to walk again, right? You
Yeah.
start out with braces,
Right.
right? To hold you up, make you do the thing, and then you start walking. Once
That's
you're
right.
able to walk, you have to remove the braces,
Right.
right?
That's
If you're
right.
unable to walk without the braces, then either A, you have something else to deal with, or B, you're holding on to the braces because the braces are the one that takes the blame if things don't go well. You're unwilling to be totally autonomous. I'm going to stay with the brace because look what the brace did. It took me from X to X, and now I'm here. No, you're still in the brace. Until
Right.
you break free of the brace and are able to walk on your own, that's when you manifest things. That's when you're at cause. And until you're at cause, you're wasting your time.
Right.
And that's why those people stay in those orgs forever,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yep.
not supposed to be in an org more than 20, maybe 30 years max.
You
And
got it.
then and then you should be at the top and you should be showing people how to manifest and how what did he just say? He said get out. That's oh, what's ACC? Come on, help me out here. Those are the lectures.
Oh, yeah, there was lectures, the ACC, something Congress. He used to have,
Yeah.
actually used to have like a get together in some city where everybody went, like
Yeah.
they called them Congresses. So
Right. And he would share information
yeah, he'd
from
get
his
up there and
time
talk.
auditing and whatever insights
Yeah,
that he had. I mean, he was cool. You
yeah,
know, that and the science fiction, he was cool.
yeah,
However, he's still human as far as I could tell.
yeah.
And
And there's some
I'm looking
mistakes.
for something I'm looking for something outside of this particular realm.
Well, I think that's more in the Eastern philosophy, sort of like,
No,
Hinduism or
that's Jesus.
Buddhism. Oh,
Jesus was
Jesus. Okay.
Jesus was is not was Jesus is in the Godhead, Father,
Yeah,
Son, Holy Spirit. He was a human because that's the only way he could redeem humankind
yeah,
because the sin happened. You know, everybody looks at Eve. Oh, Eve, man, she ate the apple. Oh, man. He was standing right there, letting that cat pitch to his woman. What kind of man is that?
yeah. Well,
And she didn't have to go anywhere to give him the apple. He was there.
yeah.
So now one wants to know what was in his head. Was he
Uh,
kinking out?
well, I have a very unusual thing on that. When I was living somewhere, and
Merry
I like
Christmas.
to talk to people. So some Jews for Jesus were knocking on my
Mm-hmm.
door, not Jehovah's Witness, Jews for
No, I
Jesus,
know Jews for Jesus. Yeah.
and they explained to me what original sin was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I understood that with their viewpoint of it, I said, well,
Did you accept? Did you accept that that was feasible?
yeah, it's demonstrated, it's
Mm-hmm.
demonstrable. And I said, well, that ties everything together with original sin and Jesus and everything.
Right.
And original sin was eating from the tree of knowledge, which meant it's a tree of
Actually, when you
knowledge. It's not,
mm-hmm.
I've seen it in Genesis. It is not the tree of sex or anything.
No,
So, and I
but the
think
real sin,
God says, then he will know right from wrong as
right,
we do. That's what he says. That's the
right.
translation. So, and I looked at that.
And who's the we?
Well, that's another topic of,
No, no, no. Real quick, this is
well,
this
you
is
could
what's in.
say it's the triad, the Father, Son,
Yeah,
and the Holy
the
Ghost.
three persons of the Godhead.
Okay, fine. And so, but the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I found that sin in mostly everybody, which is well, wait a minute. Let me think about this. Wait a second. What am I going to do? Which one of these do I like better? This is the sin of arrogance, of making up your own mind, of you deciding instead of letting
Right and
Christ
wrong.
come into your heart and do what he's intending for you to do. To be that,
Yeah,
to be
that's
similar
reasonable.
to that. So and I've noticed that people who are, have accepted Jesus have
Mm-hmm.
that. They do things. I say, why are you doing this? You got 5 kids and 4 of them are lawyers and they went to Yale and 2 of them are in the Marines and one of them's an actor and everybody's successful. Why are you working so hard to handle everybody and do so much? And they say, I'm doing it for the greater glory of God. They're
Mm-hmm.
motivated by that. They're not doing it for their own aggrandizement or privilege. So anyhow, I just
And see,
that
that's
was my
the piece that people
comprehension there from that thing. That yes,
that
most people have conceded uh, that they can decide for themselves. Most,
and that's pretty much insane.
yeah, but
Because if you could, then the world would look different than
that's
it
right.
does.
Yeah,
And so if there is with regard to human development, if there are beings that are more developed than you,
yeah,
then why would you want to reject what they're offering you in order to allow you to attain what they have?
right.
Because I know better.
Yeah,
I got this. Wrong. And then what happens? The counterbalance, Lucifer, comes in and says, "Oh, you got it. See, you don't need him. Come on, man. Do what I'm telling you to do." And you say, "What do you mean you? I ain't listening to you either." Oh, really? And then you really have to make a decision, and you really have no clue what's in your best interest
right.
because you haven't waited to learn enough. The idea is just like any child, right? You don't put the keys of the Porsche in the hands of the 3-year-old. Not a great idea.
Yeah,
However, if you train the 3-year-old, maybe by the time he's 6 or 7, especially if you take him around the track a couple of times, let him sit in your lap, and you get a high chair low so he can see over the windscreen, bang, the kid can drive the car.
okay. I've got to cut it short because I got to go wrap
No,
some
no, you
shit.
should have been gone 10 minutes ago.
Okay,
Merry
but
Christmas.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
It's the least I can do. I'm trying to reel you in.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh,
Merry Christmas and have a good New Year, but don't drink too much.
no, I need to drink a whole lot more water.
Okay. All right. Good night.
Oh,
Good
well,
night.
before you go, hold on a second. Let me look to see. Oh, no, he didn't put it up. Okay. No, I was hoping that Alex would have put up that. Do you remember the guy that Alex was with the
No, I
Christmas
don't know.
Carol? The name of the guy or anything? I'll get it from him.
Alice
That's
there,
all.
the one that Alex put up?
Yeah. They were playing the Alistair.
Yeah, they were
Alistair.
they were using different cuts from. They used both. They used Lee J. Cobb too.
Oh, they did. Oh, I only saw.
Yeah.
I only saw the Alistair Sims. I
Okay.
like him. He was good.
Yeah, he
All
was
right,
good.
go home. Come on, it's
Okay.
10
Good
after.
night. Good night.